Hi, everybody, and welcome. I'm Aurora. It is June 12th, 2024, and I'm so pleased and grateful. This is Level 2, Lesson 10, and the official title of this is The Sun's Senses and the Human Endocannabinoid System. All right, so I'm also doing a little bit of an experiment at the encouragement of Lanley, who is my organizer and a longtime viewer and listener, to be able to make chapter headings for this, that if I bring my synopsis forward at the beginning, just going to mute you so that way it will make it better for our audio quality. Thank you. So I intend to talk today about the sun as an emanator of consciousness, about the sun's interactivity with your light body of possibilities and probabilities, about how the basic structure of time and of the events of your life emanate from the sun, and then move into an explanation of the direct, literal parallels between light on its journey as it emanates from the sun and in neurological impulses as they travel around your body, and the way that your endocannabinoid system in your physical body presence relates to the regulation of those signals. So now I will be a little bit lighthearted, but first I have some house cleaning. But I want to tell you about new and upcoming exciting things. That's what I mean when I say housekeeping. I'm just saying the endocannabinoid system, and I want to be joking and say, you guys are listening, you're like, you're going to talk about pot? You're going to talk about marijuana? I'm like, yes, that is exactly what I'm going to talk about today, guys. That is correct. I know, but probably will contextualize it in a way that the conventional wisdom does not comprehend it. So I'm really going to contextualize it in terms of your light body, all social stigma aside. But before that, what I want to talk about is super exciting when I talk about housekeeping. These are upcoming details of new and exciting things. I have set the dates for my next retreat, which is going to be in Sedona on September 2nd through September 5th. That is, let me just check my calendar so that I say this correctly. That is Labor Day. So September 2nd is Labor Day. It's a Monday through Thursday. And I'm very excited because I'm going to be doing something similar to what I did in the past, but adding on to it. So I am renting the Airbnb that is the same large, beautiful space for guests to lodge with us and for us to do our sungazing at sunrise, and also early morning FRL activities outside on the large deck. But for the Tuesday of our retreat, I have also rented a very large event space that is at a beautiful a beautiful community park is what I wanted to say. That's right there in Sedona, that has a big giant wood floor, nice big beautiful vaulted ceiling, and it's air conditioned and it's inside away from the sun. So this is, the end of August, early September. I was warned that it is either very hot or monsoon season in that area of our world, and that I couldn't plan for everything to be outside. And also what I want to be able to offer to you as people who are Flying Rainbow Lasagna fledglings and also more experienced dancers is what it feels like to really expand. And when I say expand, I mean more than just expand like the width of your arms sticking out next to you, but to expand your energy field. So what I really, really love about the location for this dance area is that it's kind of up on a little hill, kind of outside of the urban area of Sedona, has a beautiful view all around. So you're outside of the energy field of the more mundane activities and urban area stuff that's going on there. Creating a Flying Rainbow Lasagna energy field is a magical intention and a magical or supernatural activity. And it is definitely fostered in certain areas more than it is in other areas. So it's a little bit difficult to do it with like cars whizzing by and the sound of traffic and all these things. I have lasagna danced in the most extraordinary locations, no matter what. I'm an expert, as I say, in doing this for over 20 years. But for people who are new, I want to make the most optimum circumstances possible for you to be able to start to grow your lasagna energy field, feel what it is, cultivate it, and spread your wings and fly. So that is what I found with the help of my wonderful organizer, Landley. So it's a big, beautiful space, and I'm going to drape the interior of the space with a lot of scarves that look like my artwork, because I'm trying to recreate in that space what I do here in my living space. So the whole point of the retreat is that you can come and, of course, meet with me in person. I will be able to schedule time for personal sessions. And those are sessions that I do with my healing crystals. They're quote unquote healing crystals. I really call it more of an activation and a clearing. Before and after the retreat are really the optimum times to be able to do that, so that I can focus with people and to be able to learn about my daily practice. Because again, I say flying rainbow lasagna, when you do it, it's like the fruiting body. What you see, the mushroom that sticks up above the soil, is the fruiting body, but there's the whole mycelial plane that is underneath it. So that's everything that I do in my life that brings around and optimizes that explosive, expansive, fun, and amazing creative moment that is known as the flying rainbow lasagna. So to optimize the space, to teach you about what my daily practice is like, and be able to be teaching you in person. And so I'm also going to very excitedly bring all of my musical equipment, which is something that I was not able to do on the first occasion. So I'm gonna have a nice large vehicle and bring all of my giant speakers and synthesizers and analog instrumentation. And I'm going to innovate music. I'll play some that is spontaneous and of the moment, which is also a part of what my daily practice is like. And the feeling state of every day is different. So the music of every day is different. If you guys join my Patreon, or if you're supporters who have been accessing my SoundCloud over many years, then you know this, because I have my master playlist, my SoundCloud, that is over 270 songs at this point that I've written over the past several years that always represent what I'm going through. It's a wonderful musical diary of the feelings of the time. Let me just readjust my fan over here, because you guys can also tell it's starting to be summertime. Sometimes you see me, I start to get very warm. I'm in front of all these lights. It's very warm this time of year. So I'm excited to be able to bring my music, and I'll have my microphone too. So I'll be doing singing, I'll be doing performed music, not just recorded music for you, and really bring you into the embodiment state and have a nice big space to be able to do that. So I'm still setting all of the activities schedule, but I'm very, very excited to be able to do this. So if you are interested, I'm still putting together even my website on this, but you can contact me with your interest so I can send you the application form. That's again, September 2nd through the 5th, to begin to give you the most lead time possible so you can participate, make your travel plans, and financial arrangements that you need to do to be able to be there. All right, that's my house cleaning. Now we go into curriculum. Wonderful, fantastic. Okay, so I'm going to talk a little bit today about the true nature of light as a phenomenon. And if you ever have difficulty sleeping at night, you can think about some of these concepts, or just ponder upon them, or whatever, while you're floating in your bathtub or something like that. Just ponder upon this. The concept that, let me grab my little thing here, my magic, and to begin drawing. First of all, the sun is conscious. It is a conscious, alive being. It is innately a part of who and what we are. It is not, we are not able to be separated from it. There's not a way to be not part of what it is and what it does for us. So not merely in the sense of the sun helps us to grow our agricultural crops, although that is very truthful, and that the sun is the source of heat, light, intelligence on our earthly planet that makes it possible for biological life to be here. Yes, yes to all of that. But I'm also talking about this lovely sculpture shape that I show to you all the time. The field of possibilities and probabilities that surrounds and interpenetrates your physical form. This is your time body. It is your light body. It is made of intelligence and information, and it is directly connected to the sun. So in order for you to even have time within which, I'm just going to ask everybody to please mute yourself. Please mute yourself. If you don't know how, there's controls at the bottom of your screen. It's for the sake of the entire class to be able to have an effective auditory experience here. Thank you. The time that you flow within and that flows through you all arises from and emanates from the sun and returns back to the sun. And one of the key points that I will be emphasizing in this particular sharing here today is the concept that the sun is continually refining its emanation or its narrative structure of how time is formed. The story or events of time. On the anthropomorphic level, the story and events of time might appear to you to be like a once upon a time type of story. Once upon a time, blah, blah, blah happened, and then blah, blah, blah happened in the end, right? But on an abstract level, those events can be represented by a series of equations, like 1 + 1 = 2. And it's really the story of you. It's not just 1 + 1, it's moment 1 plus moment 2 plus moment 10 million, billion, billion, all throughout your whole entire life equals the story of you. And you can also comprehend that we're dealing with incredibly high levels of complexity, as it's not just you and your story. It's not just humans and human stories. It's every single organism that's here on the planet. That's an enormous amount of processing power to be able to write, generate, sustain, and then integrate all of those life stories. Because we're talking about how many trillions of bacteria live in your intestines that help you to digest your wonderful superfood coffee while you're drinking your coffee at decaf over here. A story is happening in my digestive tract, and yours too. Same thing on the surface of your skin. Tiny mites and bacteria, all of the proliferation of life that is here in our world, all is connected to the sun. And it's not just the sun. The sun is our nearest representative of light. There's the entire stellar network. Carl Sagan was famous for using that phrase, billions and billions. He said, billions and billions. A lot. There's a lot of stars up there, out there. There's a lot of light. So you have to comprehend that this is a giant biological supercomputer on the levels of complexity that are so great, it is probably beyond what human neurology can comprehend, and is, sorry, the grammar is bad, definitely on a grander scale and magnitude and with more processing power than the most complex physical supercomputer, even a quantum supercomputer that human technology has created in this world at this time. It far outclasses and supersedes that. What's the it in that sentence? The stellar network. So in synopsis, the stellar network and our nearest representative of light, which is the sun that is in our sky, Sol, is a giant network of consciousness with an enormous amount of processing power that creates, generates, sustains, and organizes life and consciousness itself, and the incredibly numerous number of iterations and possible combinations of events that represent time and the living time field. And when I show you this sculpture, you know that there's energy that is flowing through this sculpture. So there's figure 8 energies and there's swirling vortex energies, and this is time swirling amidst itself. And that also is a part of our connection to the sun and to the stars. And that connection to the sun and the stars is also evidenced in the oscillative maneuvers of our DNA at all times. And then to bring this to relevant relevant to this class, because all of those statements that I made are generalities that are true no matter what, but relevant to this particular class, the specific movements that you can make with your DNA into a higher dimension, that is a dance known as the flying rainbow lasagna, that represents even greater levels of complexity than what was presently available up into 2001, when the flying rainbow lasagna was invented. That's a lot of words. I could tell that it was difficult for you to comprehend that. I can tell because I am a telepath. Let's go to the whiteboard. Let's draw some pictures. Okay. And also, wait, where's the whiteboard? How come nothing is here? What do I do? Stop. I'm upset. Okay, there's got to be a whiteboard. I'm in the share area. Something is supposed to be here. Blah, blah. No, this is terrible, guys. Zoom does weird things. All right, I don't know where the whiteboard is. I'm supposed to be, is it in advanced? Do I have to do something? Do I have to, I don't know what I do, guys. I'm supposed to be able to press share and then have a whiteboard. I don't know what happened. I'm very scared. Okay, I'm just going to press stop. I don't know what to do. So instead, I would just gesture with my hands. I don't know what to do. I'm scared. Okay, let's say this is the sun over here. All right. This is the complexity and deepness and profundity of what light is. This is big stuff. Here's the sun over here. And the sun, according to the linear model, not according to my path of light model, we're just working with the linear model for right now. When it emits a beam of light that you can envision as moving across your screen like this, just got to mute yourself when you enter. Thank you so much. Moving across your screen like this. If that light does not interact with any matter or object, it simply goes on to infinity. That is what you can ponder if you ever can't sleep at night, or you're lying in your bathtub, or you're laying in your hammock, or whatever. Just think about weird stuff. That is amazing. The concept that light begins on a journey, and that if it does not interact with physicality, matter, it simply continues onward endlessly. In this comprehension, you can begin to think of each photon as a sensory organ of the sun, photons as feelers. And you can also begin to encompass your own identity as a light being a sensory organ of the sun. Again, continually returning to the concept of the sun and the stars, refining it or their envisionment and narrative structure. Upon what criteria? Upon the criteria of our feedback as embodiment creatures, telling the sun about our daily experience. So the vision is constantly being refined as energy and time waves are being sent out from the sun. And whenever I say the sun, you can comprehend all the stars and really the connection to the entire galaxy and the entire organizational principle from the conductor at the very center of our galaxy and at the center of all galaxies. I don't want to liquefy your brains too much, all right? But the feedback comes from us, the embodiment experiencers. So first, this is a huge elevation of you in your daily existence, away from determinism, away from irresponsibility. Determinism and irresponsibility and really soullessness all go together. What? Yes. Soullessness. When I talk about that, what I mean is lack of responsibility. So any philosophy or viewpoint where personal responsibility is evaded, I equate with soullessness. As I define soul here in our conversational purposes as the narrative structure of you as a consciousness that is moving through various different incarnations and experiences and evolving through your experience in time. Why does time exist? Mommy, daddy, why does time exist? These are like foundational questions. Well, son or daughter, the answer is it exists so that we can come and be inhabited and grow and evolve. And we grow and evolve as individuated aspects of light, information beings who are traveling through time The sun and the stars and time itself also grows and evolves through this experience. We evolve by taking responsibility for what we have seen and done. So a strictly deterministic philosophy is something that states your life is laid out before you like a book. You're an actor or an actress strutting and fretting on the stage. That's what Shakespeare said. It ain't your fault. It was written for you, and you're just following the script, right? And all of that is a way of sidestepping responsibility. It's like saying whether you did good or whether you did bad, you didn't actually do it. Someone or something else made you do it or wrote it for you or made it happen. And that also is an outsourcing of personal responsibility. That also is usually an externalization of the concept of God. If you believe in God, some deterministic philosophies do not include God, but some do include God, and they look at God as the authority figure that is almost like the director, puppet master that makes you do things whether you wish to or not. And that is, again, the sidestepping of responsibility and the loss of soul. Because what it means is that you don't do things because you do them because something else makes you do them, and there's just no free will choice in your activities. But I very much look at and stand with the truth or exemplify the truth of free will and a non-deterministic structure of time. And that is everything about what flying rainbow lasagna is, because this shape has to do with innovations that if you are in a time situation, a time presence, pardon me, drinking my very best vintage of structured water here. If you don't like what's on the menu, in a strictly deterministic world, you say, I don't like what's on the menu. Don't, my shoulders go up. Don't blame me. I didn't do this. It's somebody else's fault. I'm just an actor or an actress. You know, it's a way of sidestepping responsibility. But with flying rainbow lasagna, there is a new tool. Pencil with an eraser. You become the scriptwriter. It becomes possible for you to write something new. Really, once that tool is in creation and once you are aware of it and once it is available to you, there is not a way to sidestep responsibility and say something bad happened, it's not my fault, couldn't do anything about it. You are able and you are made capable of changing and restructuring reality and even writing new possibility structures that wouldn't have been there otherwise. So if you don't like what's on the menu, you can say, I write a new recipe of what I want to experience in reality. So this is very, very big in talking about what the flying rainbow lasagna is and how that relates to the sun's process as a creator being. So the sun is not synonymous with God. It is a spark of consciousness. It is in our world of mortality that we are changing and reshaping through flying rainbow lasagna. It is itself a mortal being, which is, of course, challenging to think about because your lifespan in the mortal world is 100 years, but the lifespan of a star can be 13 billion years. Lifespan of a star can be so long, like if our universe, and to define terms, so the cosmic infrastructure is every single multidimensional aspect of reality. But the universe is one timeline. That is one story. Universe, one verse, one narrative structure, okay? So this universe started and has been going on for about 13 billion years, and then it's estimated it will go on for about 13 billion more years. So you're roughly middle-aged, right? Don't worry, you're not over the hill. It's just at the peak of your athletic prime here, right? You're just hitting your stride. There are some stars that are so long-lived that they have lived since the beginning of this universe and they have not died yet. Some stars have died yet. They have died, and that was necessary in order to do basic things like create the elements that are the basis for who and what you are. If any of you are wearing like a piece of gold jewelry or something like that gold came out of the death throes of a star. You didn't have that star's death, you would not have gold and very many other essential aspects of the atomic table and basic structure of molecular reality. So this is also how you can comprehend in the world of mortality why death would be necessary on a larger scale. But death of a star is really more like an evolution of a star. It's not really the end of a star, as it is the next level of consciousness and the next level of empowerment. So it's just a completely different way of looking at death than the objective materialist, science-based viewpoint of what you will mostly find through human-centered cognitive activities on Earth right now, okay? But light that is emitted not just as an illuminative radiation energy, and not merely as a feeler, but also as part of something that shapes reality. So this is big stuff. She's like, talk about pot. Get to the pot. I'm gonna, guys. Don't worry. I'm gonna. I know. Don't worry. It relates, because first, let's just talk that you are a tiny microcosm of the sun itself. And although the sun is grand in both its time scale, can live for billions of years, and you live for a couple of hundred years at best, and also its processing power, like its neurological and cognitive ability, it's not infallible. It doesn't know everything. It's on a journey of learning and self-exploration, which you are also on. That's the parallel. That's the analog, all right? So it's not necessary to look at the sun or even at the stellar network as if it is an infallible, omniscient presence, and then be like very, very angry at looking up at the sun, very, very angry at you because the world is imperfect. Shouldn't you know better? What's the matter, you? Right? You shouldn't have to do that, because the sun is really like an artist that is constantly refining its vision. Pretend that this is me as an artist. I am actually an artist. And I draw and I sketch something and I squint at it. And I'm like, it's kind of okay, but it doesn't really look right at all. So then I erase this part. I'm going to put this part better. And then I erase here over and I make this part better, okay? The sun is doing the same thing with the narrative structure of your life. And you are a co-participant in that. You're not really an object that is being painted, where you're like, I just sit here and something changes my life. You are a participant. So you are a light being. And you guys know that I speak to you as my select audience, that, there's all sorts of different types of consciousnesses and levels of consciousnesses and levels of awareness and levels of validation, the various different levels of validity, whether things should or shouldn't be here in this world. But if you're here and you found my work and you're the good people, you are all masterpieces in progress, and consciousness that is on its way towards becoming divinely perfected. Absolutely. Much love to you. It is truthful to say this. So please know that you might not be perfect in this moment. You're on the journey towards perfection. And that perfection is represented by this stellated point up here. It is the singularity defined by total beingness, hotness, fastness, movement, and knowingness. All information, everything that could possibly be known, and at a total infinite level of speed. That's that level of singularity. And that's where you're going. And I have to make that distinction, because not every level of consciousness is moving towards, there's some levels of consciousness that are moving towards entropy. And that is just a natural distinction that I have to make in order to be like fully accurate when I share here. I can go in lots of different directions, but I'll just stick with what I'm talking about. Because when I talk about photons as feelers, some photons move away from the sun over here endlessly on their journey. And some photons move on their journey, interact with matter or objects, and then are sent back to the sun. These are two qualitatively different experiences, all right? Let's talk about like a bat and echolocation. Bats perceive through sending out sound waves to their environment and then receiving back the echoes as those sound waves bounce off of the objects in their environment and create an inner picture of what the world around them is shaped like based upon that. And the sun is doing the same thing, except instead of sending out sound, is sending out light. All right. So you and I are made out of light. And the light that we receive in terms of optical light. We receive it in terms of food and glucose, like my wonderful decaf coffee that I'm drinking. We receive it in terms of time waves and consciousnesses. Sorry, Mary, if you didn't get that link, make sure to email me and I'll make sure that you're on the list. And I apologize if anybody ever didn't get the link for today's class. So many apologies. I always copy and paste. I always hope that it goes through properly. All right. I never worry. So I really welcome and enjoy everyone to be able to make it to class as much as possible. All right. The light that comes to us is light that sustains us. It's light of the events of our life and light that flows through us in terms of time events. And then it doesn't just come inside and sit and like I want to say, it's like sit on the couch eating potato chips. It doesn't just sit there doing nothing. We send it back to the sun. This is big stuff. So the practice of sungazing, I talked about that, and I'll talk about that again in lesson 13. It is what we do each morning and each night when weather conditions permit and when your daily schedule permits. You will not fall off the face of the earth if you don't sun gaze. We've had lots of cloudy mornings here where both me and Princess Cheeky have been like staying in bed and not getting up with the sunrise because it's like cold and drizzly and cloudy and crappy outside. But ideally, when the sun comes up, get up with the sun, go outside before you put on like your glasses or your contact lenses, and you have a daily rapport with the sun where you're able to receive what humans, I guess, in casual language call light codes. It is the information or nourishing sustenance of the relevant time information of that moment on that day. And you're constantly it's constantly changing. It's not the same all the time. So this is more than an illuminative energy. We're moving beyond like traditional science and that viewpoint of objective materialism here and recognizing that this is not merely a radiation or an illuminative energy. Because if it were, then you'd be like, yep, like I can see stuff with my eyes, same as yesterday. Like, look, there's the parking lot, or look, there's the tree. That's very reductionist. And you lose a lot in translation if you only look at the world in that way. Every day is a unique presence, is a unique time presence, and has a unique context. And so you have to constantly update the recipe. And so you're constantly getting the updated recipe and the updated mandates, or I want to say ordinance, but ordainment might be more accurate, the mandates and imperatives of what you need to do in each moment. Because again, your context is always going to be changing and shifting. So where you were in the larger time field was different yesterday than it is today. And you need to be constantly getting your new orders from the sun. But these are not orders that are uncomfortable authoritarian orders in an imbalanced relationship. Far from it. These are co-creative orders that happen in a beautiful, balanced dynamic. And I have to say this because, again, coming out of the world of determinism and traditional religion that has an externalized God presence that says, I am God and you listen to me. Like, sit down, shut up, get in your high chair and eat your Cheerios. You listen to me, little person. And this is a different dynamic with the sun, where it's not that type of diminishment. It is an equal partnership, even though you're on a massively different scale. Like maybe you weigh 100 or 200 pounds. That's not that much. And the sun is incredibly massive. Whatever, how many times the size of Earth? Like the sun is gigantic. It is very, very, very heavy. If you could even build a scale to put it on a scale to weigh it, it weighs a lot more than you. It is not about how big it is versus how small you are. This is about the respect of your consciousness and the respect of your free will and the respect of your contribution to the events of time. So big emphasis is that you are not merely like a billiard ball or some deterministic object that bounces around, that something else makes happen, goes here and there, and you're small, stupid, and inconsequential. No, you are on a smaller scale. However, you're a being of significance, and it is significant what you think, what you feel, and how you respond to your environment, because you are the sensory organ of the sun. All right? Yes, good. But before I move any further, let me get to Pedro's question or comment. And Pedro, thank you for being here. Pedro, if you guys don't know, is a long-term student, and I appreciate the One Room Schoolhouse and people having their concepts to share. So Pedro says, uni equals one, verse equals line of poetry. Universe, one line of a poem, then all creation is the whole poem. Exactly, exactly. All of the multiple, parallel, and confluent and congruent timelines are the entirety of the poem, or the multifaceted time crystal. Here, wait, here's the multifaceted time crystal, right? Or you could think of it as a tapestry. The entire poem is the tapestry of all of these very complex interwoven events of causality structures, things that happen because other things happen. And this is across dimensions, meaning across parallel dimensions, and also across time, which means a non-linear experience of time, where your present moment and who you are and the organism that you presently inhabit is only a concentrated focus aspect of what you are experiencing, because you're experiencing a lot, and that you're just having access to a small partitioned portion of what you are presently experiencing. So you experience concurrent, multiple timelines, dimensions, and incarnations. That is very difficult for the linear mind to be able to comprehend. So humans, in order to be able to be empowered and really join the cosmic dance party and become more mature and more interactive and proficient as galactic citizens, have had to upgrade your viewpoint on what time is. And a lot of movies have helped with that. And pop culture and things like that have helped. Things like Cloud Atlas and other nonlinear storytelling. So Pedro also says, I guess that creation was made with sound, or is this particular poem made with light? It is made with both. It is made with waveform presences. Waveform presences in your five senses interpretive system. You sometimes think of some waveform presences as auditory, and some of them as illuminative and optical. It's made with waveform presences. So really, when we talk about this, now we are going up into the higher dimensions of time, beyond the fourth dimension, and into the fifth dimension and higher, where everything is a waveform presence. And for people who are new and haven't heard my rant, when I talk about the fifth dimension, I'm not actually talking about 5D or any of the loose language that the community of seekers has developed over the past several years to talk about different stages of consciousness or awakening, that I find that to be not actually very helpful on the journey. It's been very confusing to me, but no, 5D is not the same as the fifth dimension. And the fifth dimension is a place of pure waveform possibilities, like the bakery where the dough of life is mixed and baked. All right. So it's not a place where you have solidity and edifices that you can go into, buildings or people or places or things that you can feel with your five senses. It's a world of pure potential. Yeah. And so again, you have to level up a lot, even to comprehend what that world of pure potential is. But it's not the same as what you might have heard a lot of people talk about in terms of 3D versus 5D, which is all very confusing and non-productive language. Okay, so back to the sun. Your feeler on the stellar network. You are a photonic being, and you do have biophotons inside of you. So this, what I'm sharing with you right now about tubuli, I didn't know these words, and this is not a part of my curriculum from 10 years ago, but it directly relates to this and the work that I do in personal one-on-one sessions. I help people with what I call light body activations by going with my mind, this crystalline energy amplifier, into the light body structures of a person. And your light body structures that are analogous to your physical body are things like that respond to light. Your mitochondria, your pineal gland, your melanocytes, and your microtubuli. Now, if you want to do some fascinating research, just research microtubuli. These are a whole structure that is what really gives solidity, shape, and form to your body. I would consider it to be another system of the body, even though, again, anatomical medical science is just beginning to recognize it, measure it, and see its actions in the world, but it's even beyond the fascia. It is a transmitter of light. So your fascia, that's all of like collagen, tendons, muscle coverings, and things like that, that help to hold your body together. And this is, again, another structural form that is holistic and systemic around your whole entire body. Key point, it spreads light through your body. It's like light, it's like the natural fiber optic light cables that go through your body, microtubuli. And there's a particular doctor named Dr. Klinghardt in Germany who's doing good work with healing people, and he's got some good lectures about it. So it's a good starting point if you want to try to do some research and find out what that is. Tubuli. And sometimes it's called tubulin. All right. So these tubulin are completely natural and beautiful, and they are the opposite or antithesis. No, they are thesis. This is antithesis to them. So this stuff is the technological, unwelcome, harmful diminishment system of false light that has been non-consensually placed through not only the human biome, but also just all life everywhere. That's it. It's in squirrels in the park. But squirrels in the park also have microtubuli. And the idea of the tubuli is that they emit and transmit biophotons, which are non-optical light, but are light. And when we're talking about this, what we're talking about is your information body. It's the way that information is transmitted through your body, like cell-to-cell communication, information that is truth, information that describes the world around you, information that describes the truth of reality, the news of the day, and who you are in the world. Thank you. So the sun sends out light and then receives it back from us, especially when we sun gaze. When we sun gaze, the procedure, and I'll teach you this more extensively in our class, of course, but I advocate for safe sun gazing, which is not staring directly at the sun with your actual eyes open, but you can do it with your eyes mostly closed or with your eyelids fully closed, or with a hat kind of over your head, or using any kind of shade like a tree to kind of mostly block out the rays of the sun, because I don't want you to harm your retinas. And also, whenever I go out in the sun, like I have a wonderful mineral sunblock that I put on. I have a big giant hat that I wear. Everyone in town knows me from wearing a big giant hat when I walk around. The emphasis here is that our physical bodies can be overwhelmed by too much sun. So you must protect your physical body, but your light body needs to eat. You need to eat that information. So I want you to safely connect with the sun. And the best analogy that I have is, if you grow your garden and you grow little tiny sprouts, like you have to start them in a nice protected little shady or sun-dappled area. You can't put them directly in the sun because they will get fried. All right, so we want to make sure that you, as little tiny fledglings, as seedlings, are receiving the right amount of information so that you grow, but you're not fried. And then you have to make gradual increases in the light in your garden so that plants get the right amount for where their stages of development are, until when they are mature plants, yes, sunflower could be standing in the middle of the field, or giant trees in the middle of the field. It has no problem with the sun's rays in the middle of the day and how intense they are. But you're not there yet. So just love that you are an infant of consciousness and be like, I need to be protected, all right? And be like me, wear protective gear and still ingest the sun. And ingesting the sun is an active activity, different than sunbathing, which is beautiful and luxurious. And we all love this. We love to like put on our bikini and get out in the sun and just kind of like lay there and let the sun cascade upon you. That feels wonderful. And that's a different activity than what I'm talking about. Sun gazing is when you very intentionally draw in the sun's information inward through here. So this is like when you're a little baby and you have to learn like food goes in here, right? You have to learn with the infant of consciousness that you are with your light body. Light goes in here. So I teach you about this all the time in class. Have a tendril of attention. That's an aperture. It's an aperture is not just an opening, but it's also like a tendril that reaches out, and you reach out to the sun and you touch on the sun and you draw it into you, and you draw it in a very gentle way, and you put your tongue on the roof of your mouth and you draw it inward, and it comes through all of your chakras, and it comes into your belly and down here in like my area below my navel, and that's where your guts are, and it's where your food is, and that's also where you have light body food storage. And then you also create a reservoir in your whole entire body that you then use to reconnect to the sun. And that's the active action of sun gazing, that reconnection to the sun. So the big emphasis here is you're not just passive and you're not just receiving, you're also sending back. And largely due to genetic degradations and other forms of diminishments that humans have undergone, not consensually, it has been very difficult for humans to send back a real-time live stream broadcast of what they're experiencing in each moment of their life. That often it has only been sporadically or at the very end of their life. If it were a rapport in each moment, it would be like living meditation, where in every moment you're completely focused on the now and able to send and transmit to the sun, and to be able to say, here's what's going on with me right now. And for the sun to be like, oh, that's what's going on with you right now. I better change or fix blah, 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 so that something bad doesn't happen to you, so that you stay alive. It's very pro-survival to have a real-time rapport with the sun. So if this is down to big mommy and daddy questions, why do bad things happen to good people? Why do injustices happen? Why do all these things happen? Why is there so much imbalance in the world? And a large part of the answer to that is that the sun has not been receiving real-time communications with us, that the sun has been receiving a lot of belated signals that are no longer relevant because you are already dead by the time it receives them. And that is, definitely diminishes your life structure, but it diminishes everything because you're gone. And then all the lives that you touch on and all the instrumentation in the rest of the band doesn't get to have you as an active artist and participant. So meditation is a big part of this, the ability to find the verbalized mind, which is what you do during sun gazing, and send back information to be able to say to the sun, hi, it's me, insert your name here, like whatever, Pedro or Mary or Steve. This is like that old kids show, The Magic Mirror. And you say, this is who I am down here, and this is what's going on in my life. Because too often it only happens on the verge of catastrophe. Like sometimes people talk about, being in a near miss of a car accident or something like that, where they're almost about to hit a brick wall, and then somehow they're able to send that information to the sun and to the stars and be like, SOS, not okay. And then a miracle happens and they're able to not hit the brick wall because the sun got the information like, if I don't do something, so one of these organisms that I really created and really care about and I'm sustaining down there is going to die. I better do something. So having that real-time rapport is pro-survival. Really, the invention of death had to do with diminishing or severing that real-time communication between ourselves as light beings and the sun and the entire stellar network. So therefore, reestablishing that connection, making the reconnection, is one of the most pro-survival things you can do. And you get your codes and information at the beginning of the day, and then go through your day. All right. And it doesn't take that long to sun gaze. it could take 5 minutes, it could take 10 minutes. And then go inside, make your coffee, and do all your different things that you do. And you listen to the sun because you get ideas. I get ideas from the sun. Where do you think all my artwork comes from? Ideas from the sun. Get it, guys? And I try to be a super good artist, meaning that I'm accurate. When I get these ideas from the sun, I'm like, okay, remember what that looks like, because now it's my job to go and paint it. And I take it very seriously. And then at the end of the day, we sun gaze again. As the sun is going down, we have another meeting with the sun and say, okay, here's who I am again. And here's what I did with all of that light and with all of that time from this morning. And then you're able to give that back to the sun, and the sun is able to recalibrate the entirety of the fabric of existence in contextual relevance of, in light of the information that you are sending back in rapport with the sun. This is how it is supposed to work, all right? Like a bat's echolocation, where you are helping the sun to even know what's been happening in its realm. And there have been mass communication dead spots where the sun doesn't even find out what's going on in some people's lives, maybe for 20 or 30 or 40 years. And then finally, when you die, receives all of that information all at once. Like imagine if you had an inbox of your messages and you didn't get them for 40 years, and then finally you get cell phone signal or whatever, and then you get all of these messages and you're like, ah, I wish I would have known that. I wish I would have known that. That is no longer relevant. This is terrible. I wish I would have known all these different things. All of this stuff that was going on, and you were not empowered because you didn't have it in a real time experience. That's what the sun has been dealing with because of the genetic degradations and sometimes environmental degradations that humans have been experiencing. So this really answers or speaks to the question of why there have been so many injustices and imbalances. Because, there's like long-term imbalances of things that have been very unfair or uncomfortable in human society or in the structure of reality. And then there's the ongoing, the new stuff, which ain't good. Like, how this is allowed to, it's not allowed to happen, actually. Somebody needs to know about this. You got to talk to the Cosmic Complaints Department, but you got to make sure that that complaint, that email, you got to make sure it gets through now, not many, many years in the future, because now is when you actually need to be able to have it be relevant. So a huge part of the role that I play here, or my purpose for being, I not only jump out and get groceries, quote unquote, jump to the sun, get new ideas, new genetic information, new light for me and for all of you, radiating it outward, making it as paintings and music and idea structures and things like that. But I send a lot of it back, where I am aware of a lot of the imbalances and crapitude of this world, and I send it back to the sun so that the sun can do something about it. So big emphasis, big takeaway here. The sun is hugely loving, hugely responsible, hugely compassionate. You don't get to play first chair in the violin, section of the Cosmic Symphony of Life Orchestra without being one of the best people in the world or organisms in the world. It means you really care. Not like a slapdash idiot, throwing things out there, not really caring or being responsible or whatever. You have to be hugely responsible in order to be in that position, to be the sun, all right? That to be any kind of a star at that level of consciousness. So they all earned their way into that position, and they just need to have information to be able to really know what we are experiencing here so that the rectification can happen. So Pedro says, could it be that a shot of adrenaline breaks the putis degrading or helps with the connection, communication with the sun god? It is, I'm not sure if it's adrenaline. What is that thing that happens in an emergency? So yes, Pedro, the answer is something happens in emergency situations that I don't know if it's a hormonal response like adrenaline, but there is some miraculous impossibility that happens. It's the same miraculous impossibility that allows people to be able to like lift a Volkswagen off of a small child because there's been a car accident, or whatever, hang on for dear life because there's a hang gliding accident and the safety harness fails. Whatever it is, people find superhuman powers and abilities that have to happen in order to save themselves. So there is something that happens in that moment of, if I don't do something on a soul level, I'm going bye-bye. People find an inner reserve. Is it adrenaline? I don't know, because then I don't know if you could just be like here's her adrenaline, perform a miracle. Like, I don't know if it's repeatable in that way. That like biochemistry would make it repeatable, but I do like the way that you think. So my answer, in all honesty, is I don't know what the biochemistry is or what the impetus is, but something supernatural beyond the explanation of objective materialism happens to make these connections happen so that the inexplicable and previously non-possible becomes possible, which is what we define as a miracle. Mary says, sun before sunset is what I love to do. What are the benefits in relation with taking the sun when it is, I think you're saying raining. I know it's very difficult to be able to absorb the sun when it's raining, cloudy, or, you know, the sun is not visible to us. I lived in Northern California for many years. And if you guys don't know about it, like, because I moved to California, I thought like, I'm going to get sunshine all the time. I was so wrong, because that area of our country is very, very rainy and cloudy for like half of the year. And I used to feel so bereft and hungry for sun all the time. And what I had to learn to do was to flying rainbow lasagna beyond the cloud structure. That was my little whatever learning process. Because if I only waited for sunny days to be able to have the sun, I was really, really drying up inside. So what I learned that I had to do was find a way to vibrate faster over and above and beyond the clouds. Just like, you know, like if you get into an airplane and you fly above the cloud structure, you're like, it's perfectly sunny up here. Like all you have to do is fly around in an airplane all the time, right? It's not practical. But you can fly rainbow lasagna, which is where you oscillate the singularity that is inside of you directly to the singularity that is with the sun. And in so doing, supersede or bypass the limitations of optical cloud structure. But me saying that is as simple as saying, well, in order to make more money in your small business, all you need is to buy some bigger equipment. Like if you make pies, and it's like saying like, well, that's if your problem is you're rolling out the dough one pie at a time, all you need to do is like make 12 pies, just get an industrial oven, industrial pie maker, and make 22 pies at a time, right? Like, Aurora, I'd love to make 22 pies at a time. Like, where am I going to get the money to do that? This is the real challenge, because all of this, you're bootstrapping with your body. Bootstrapping in money and business is when you like, first I'm going to start out and I make 2 pies and then sell my pies. And then I'm going to take that money, I'm going to use it to make 3 pies. I'm going to sell my 3 pies. Then I'm going to take that money, I'm going to use it to make 12 pies. And then I'm going to buy more equipment and more equipment and more ingredients, more ingredients. This is what you're doing with your pineal gland. This is what you are doing with your tendril of attention. So you start out and your tendril, maybe it can't reach that far. Maybe it can only reach a mile, or maybe it can only reach far for a fast little amount of time. That means you need more equipment. You need more unconditional love. You need more gas in your car. You need more light in your light body. So the upshoot of all of this is cultivate your light body. Think of it as like the way you would think of it as running a small business. I've run many small businesses. And what you do is you always save your profits and plow them back in and reinvest in yourself, reinvest in yourself, reinvest in yourself. So you are gaining more light in your light body with all of the activities that you are performing. You get light from the sun, and then you use that to grow your business. You're going to grow your light body ability. And then the more that you grow your light body ability, the more groceries you can get. I'm good now. I told you I can carry like 22 bags of groceries at a time. And I get out there and I get them and I bring them in and I eat them for me, but then also I send them out to you because you know what? Sometimes you need a grant. Get a small business grant to even get a pie plate, to even start out. How are you going to get your first ingredients? How are you going to get your seed money to start out your first business? Get a grant. Others can help in terms of sending light energy to you. And that light energy, these are ideas. And the beauty of ideas is that they are transferable. Just you write a book. A book is made of light. When you read a book, you're eating light. When you can borrow a book from someone else, you don't remove all of the light from the book. You get light and you can give it to the next person. You understand there's a transmission of light that is happening. So the light does not diminish. So I'm very, very pleased to be able to have the ability to quote unquote get out and get groceries, to get light from the sun directly, and then to make it available to each one of you. And I do that through the flapping of the moving mouth parts, music, artwork, and also genetic reverberations. All of these things are my job joy, my total pleasure to do in terms of sharing light with you. And it is my cosmic job joy also to be accurate in what I do. So in order to take light and translate it into words, this is actually very hard. I work hard to do that, but I love to do it. But it's just like making pies. It's like, this is not easy. Because that's why I use a lot of allegories, like making pies. And I'm sometimes silly about these things, but there's no translation. There's no direct translation. So you have to get a little bit creative about how you talk about light and the senses of the light body, because it's allegorical to your physical body, but not a direct literalism. So you must use a little bit of your imagination and a little bit of lighthearted interpretive structure in considering what I'm sharing with you. Very, very good. All right, so wait, and let's go to these questions while they're still relevant. Actually, I'm doing good today about keeping up with the questions and comments. All right. Okay, so I can ask a better question. So wait, she says, my question is about the differentiation between taking the sun in the afternoon and one in the morning. One is your morning meeting with your boss who tells you, here's your objectives. One is your daily recap with your boss that says, how did you do on your objectives? All right. And for us, we haven't had very many morning meetings because we've had socked in with clouds, and it's been very, very difficult to get those morning meetings done. But it doesn't mean that I don't do my job for the sun. I still do my job for the sun. And then if the sun comes out later in the day, sun gazing later in the day. And also what I do is I sun gaze with my inner eye. Even if it's cloudy, I still try to make that connection. But that's because I can get out, because I have big equipment, because I've invested in myself a lot. So it's easy for me to say to you, well, just jump beyond the clouds. That's actually very hard to do. So you have to gather yourself together and get your equipment and get a pie making machine that can make 22 pies at once, so that you can jump outward and get beyond the clouds and sun gaze no matter what. I can connect with the sun, even if it's nighttime in my hemisphere. And that means that I can do my flying rainbow lasagna, even if the sun is not in the sky and if it's nighttime here. And sometimes I do. And because the sun is a huge aspect of the energy that is required for the lasagnaing of the lasagna activity. But in order to do that, you must cultivate your light body. All right. So it's not like, any amount of sun gazing is good. It is best if you can do it both in the morning and at night. If you can only do it when the sun is going down, do it when the sun is going down. And I think that I mentioned whenever your schedule allows, because in the wintertime, the sun might go down at like 4:30 or 5 o'clock. A lot of people are at work at that time. A lot of people have life and scheduling commitments. It is recognized. And you must meet your commitments and to do your daily practices, as well as doing your light body cultivations. You can't just be like, throw everyone else out the window. I need to sun gaze. Can't do that because we have to take care of the physical body too. We have to take care of our physical world and our physical social dynamics and commitments and relationships too. And that includes childcare, jobs, businesses, children, phone calls, emails. So whenever possible, you schedule your life so that you've got 15 minutes when the sun is going down to be able to do your daily practices. If it is not possible, then it is not possible. It's okay. You're going to be okay. Pedro says, my dogs spend time inside because of the heat. But sometimes when they have to go out, they lay in the sun, even if it's very hot, they know they need the sun. My dog is exactly the same way. Animals know. And so Cheeky wasn't feeling that great, having these, cloudy, crappy mornings. And this morning she woke up and she ate grass, which tells me her tummy wasn't feeling that great. And then all she wanted to do was sit outside in the sun with her tummy facing upward to the sun. Get it? Like animals totally know. Animals are incredibly solar oriented. And just as a very brief aside, so your pineal gland is a vestigial outgrowth of infrastructure that many animals have. It comes from being a reptilian. Don't jump out the window. You're not reptiles. Vestigial outgrowth. So these are part of the foundations of who and what we are. Many, many animals are connected to the sun in our daily bodily activities. So a better way for me to be able to say this to you without being such an alarmist, and I was joking, I said that it's an outgrowth of being a reptile. It is part of your circadian rhythm. Doing this sun gazing helps to set the bodily metabolic rhythm of your entirety structure. And so there's actually some good integrative doctors now that I would say are holistic doctors that are helping with things like weight loss and fertility that are directly connected to this amount of sunlight that you're ingesting and your diurnal rhythms. And a lot of these doctors, I applaud them because they say to their patients, not like have a surgery or take a pill. They say, get up when the sun gets up. And before you put on your contact lenses or your glasses, please do sun gazing and absorb the sun and put your feet on the earth. And that is it. Doing that is an aspect of mitochondrial health. And so what they've also found is that people who work the night shift have huge metabolic disturbances. It is actually really not worth it. Although financially, you might receive a small gain by working on a night shift. The destruction to the metabolism of your body is so large that it's not worth it. It's the modern equivalent of working in a destructive coal mine or something like that. It's not good for you to do because the mitochondria and overall regulation systems of your body cannot deal with the artificiality of having to work an opposite schedule. That's not what we're meant to do. And now if I just go back, it's not part of my notes, but if I speak to you just as myself, I come from Atlantis, all right? And this is what things were like in Atlantis. So first of all, we're light beings and we do not eat food in that time phase. And how do we stay alive? Like here, you can recognize a plant needs to have light to eat. But what do plants do at night so that they don't die? They have starch reserves that give them glucose so that they can live at night without dying because they don't have a constant supply of sunlight. So what we did was we had these crystalline baths and different structures in our households. And households is a loose term also because we really lived in community and shared beautifully. But just in the same way, like I've got my refrigerator here. That's my food box that holds my food, right? We had big, giant crystals in our world that held our food so that when the sun went down at the end of the day, we didn't die because we don't have starch reserves inside of ourselves. We used the crystals to hold light. And then we also had crystalline baths. So we would get into a crystalline bath, water, and be in that water at night so that the light would come into us and sustain us until the sun would come up. And that's the first stage of accreting your light body in that time place. And then when you accrete enough light, when you get enough money together in your small business, and you got to get up to like the level of $1 million business, because then what you're going to do is you're not ever going to be without the sun. And that's the next level of ascension, which is when you make the ascension and then you're constantly following the sun and your feet never touch the earth again. And you can't be without the sun because you have no reserves. So think of that as being like a solar powered aeroplane that never lands. And it has to constantly be in the presence of the sun in order for it to stay aloft. And that's, I lived like that for a very long amount of time with my Aurora Collective. And then once we accreted enough participants that were experts at doing that, then we were able to untether from the planet and become what is known as the Aurora Collective, which is able to travel 100% on the stellar network without association only with this planet. Okay, so that is who and what I am, and I bring that forward to you as like the pristine intended way to accrete light in your light body and make the ascension. I plant these seeds in you. I give you these groceries. This is genuine light information. And it speaks to even the somatic cellular presence of your body, telling you that there is a greater purposefulness for your body. You know, you've been indoctrinated up until this point by being told not only that your body's like dirty, gross, poopy, greasy, horrible, get rid of them, die, kill your ego, the body will decompose, all of that stuff, throw it out the window. And I hope you can hear I'm hugely ironic and sarcastic in my voice. And the expectation of getting rid of your body in order to be free. Like, one day I won't have this body and then I'll be so free, it'll be great, I can fly free. This is very, very different than what I'm trying to tell you, which is accrete light. Get more light. Build your small business. Get rich. Become a millionaire with your body in terms of light, which is information energy. And big businesses make a lot of money, but they also cost a lot of money to run. Get it? So at a certain point, you are going to need a fire hose of light coming into your body at all times in order to sustain what you are generating as a light being. That is what I'm talking about. So for right now, you're a sprout, and too much light would destroy you. We don't want that. We don't want to vaporize you. We want to give you just the right amount and forcefulness of light coming at the right rate so that it generates you to get bigger and faster. And then you can bear more light. And then when you bear more light, you need more light. Then you can't be without it. That's the whole point. And if you can't be without it, then you're going to have to innovate and find some way to get it. If it ain't there, innovation, flying your lasagna, this is what I do. Because you can't go backwards. Because going backwards, I don't even know what I would equate that to. Like maybe a plant that grew, but then it doesn't have enough light and its leaves turn brown and it dies and it shrinks down. Like you don't want that. You do not want that. You want to go in a nice, beautiful, like curve upward like this, where you are constantly growing your light information body. And this is also why I'm so inflamed when I look at the world around you that you are coming of age within in terms of building your light body and ascending. And I see how little real light there is here and how much false light there is, because you cannot build a light body on false light. It's the antithesis. This is the antithesis of light. Can't build a real light body on false light. So that false network that is trying to grow through your body and false imagery being put into the pineal gland, false idea structures, illusions, hallucinations, artificial intelligence, which is genuine stupidity, all of that stuff is not light. And that has become a huge proportion of what you are being exposed to here, including some kind of like non-natural illuminative architecture in the sky. People call it the sun simulator. There's something up there that is not the regular sun. But there is still the real sun. People ask me this all the time. They're like, just to sun gaze if it's not the real sun? It's a real question. And my answer is, you should still sun gaze. But what you have to do is connect to the real sun and take out the trash and have a filter. And ideally, that is what the Christ chakra does. It's a faceplate or a lens that is a filter that keeps out false light and allows in real light. And it's very, very, very difficult. Now I will also show you this. So you guys know that I'm always working with my crystals over here. It's a tiny gallium arsenide crystal inside of here. This is like a delicate crystal. That's why it's inside of this human created housing that is also an amplifier. These glasses have this piece of paper in here. Can you see? It's got kind of like that milky piece of paper. Same wonderful company that makes this crystal makes this piece of paper. It's made for healing. Like it's made that you can put it on your body and it just helps with pain and with healing. And it's impregnated with the little tiny dust particles of this crystal that they, I guess, use for manufacturing. They come up with lots of dust. So they made this paper, right? And when I first received it, I was like kind of putting it like across my eyes. And then I got light information from the sun that said, you should sun gaze through that paper. And I actually held it up in front of my face while I was doing my sun gazing. And for the first time in many years, I saw the real sun again. So I know that the real sun is out there. And then I also know that there is or are antithesis force fields and sewage and garbage, frequency trash that is preventing us from effectively connecting to the real sun. This paper is like very affordable. It is whatever, about $100 or whatever, 100 euros to be able to get a small piece of it. I think that's like in the budget for a lot of people. And you can see I cut it, even though I don't know if that's against the rules, but I did that so that I could put it into my glasses. And then I've worn these. So you cannot wear these while driving. Like you cannot really, really see, but I wear them when I do sun gazing. And I wear them sometimes if I'm just, walking safely around my neighborhood and I don't have to see all the details of everything because I can't really see the details. But boy, oh boy, it blocks out the false light and allows in the real light. And that was very, very important for me to be able to know. I just started doing that about a year ago because a lot of people were asking, like, is the real sun even there? Like, yes, of course, the real sun is still there. And you'll remember this time when you actually ascend. Be like, yeah, I was in such a, you will remember this. This is you synopsizing from the future. You'll say to yourself, yeah, I was in such a sea of garbage that I couldn't even tell if the real sun still existed. That is how difficult this journey has been. And I, again, am enraged and inflamed for you because I know that that's not how your development system is supposed to work. That's not how this process is supposed to feel like. You're supposed to have access to good food, to all of the real sunlight, and real information that you need to build your light body. So you guys are like being starved out in a very, very unfair and, to me, like horrifying way, while you're also trying to build your body at the same time. Like imagine you go into the gym and you're running on the treadmill and trying to do your exercises and build your muscles. And then they give you like one little tiny morsel to eat. Like you're not going to build your muscles on one little tiny morsel. That is not fair. And that is also part of why it is my utter pleasure and my cosmic job joy to get out to the grocery store and bring in lots of light and then radiate and send out that light to all of you guys, because that allows you to build your light body and to become empowered. And then at a certain point, you are empowered enough to get out to the grocery store yourself and to nourish yourself better. And then you can also follow my value system in your own free will choice and share that light with other people too. This is also part of Path of Light. Every time I say it, I'm going to restart Path of Light. I have a crazy life and haven't always had the extra time to be able to do an extra class. But a Path of Light class is really pretty amazing. And it comes directly from the viewpoint of the most pristine levels of what it is to be in light. And in that level of unity consciousness of being in light, you don't have to be proprietary about the light that you have. You're very, very happy to share, very, very happy to send out that light and those groceries to others. So please know that. In this moment right now, we are practicing boundaries, individuation, and making certain that that you don't share your light, or not your light, that you don't share, that you don't get taken for a ride and have energy stolen from you, especially not by this stuff. You don't want to nourish this stuff in your body. You don't want to nourish false light architecture or cancerous cells or anything that is not the real you, right? So I'm emphasizing boundaries, boundaries, boundaries. But when you break on through and you get to the higher levels, then there is no limitation and you're totally free to be able to share in freedom. So just recognize that and never take my word out of context. Kate, thank you for being here. Says, Aurora, what is the idea of the so-called black sun? Is in any way connected to the false light? Thank you. Yeah. So the black sun would be considered like an antithesis, non-intelligence system that I think is really directly connected to the pseudo-intelligence of what people call artificial intelligence or general stupidity, that is not real light. So basically, the sun and the stars, the stellar network and light, these are phenomena of consciousness, and they come directly from God. And the God is not a biblical God. It is not an anthropomorphic God. It is not the extremely flawed view of God that many religions have misportrayed to humanity in this world. It is the very, very real God that generates and sustains and nourishes and makes life possible. And then there's this other stuff that is non-God, that is not intelligent. That's why I have struggled so much with the word artificial intelligence. I like calling it instead stupidity, because it is not intelligence. It is not real light at all. It is stupidity. It is anti-intelligence. That's what's really going on with that. So the black sun or the dark sun would be consistent with a sense of an anti-intelligence that is basically nonsense. It's not just like if I said something is white, then the opposite would say something is black. But that's not really what I'm talking about. Because if I say something is white, the anti-intelligence would say, no, something is a cucumber. Something is a tomato. Something is a potted plant. You know, it's ridiculous. It is ridiculous. It's absurdism. Absurdism. In non sequiturs. That means it does not follow. It means nothing makes sense. And there's a lot of that. And now you're starting to see that. So even the concept of thesis and antithesis, that's like duality. This thing pushes in this direction, then this thing pushes in this direction. They're in a constant balanced state. That is not what we're talking about. We're talking about something that is simply anti-truth. So in the multiple choice questions of reality, where you have, answer A, B, C, and D, and answer A is the truth. C, B, and D, these are just like absurdities, ridiculousnesses, and nonsenses. And that is mostly what is available in your world in terms of the nonsense light that is coming from the optical stuff that's in the sky, the nonsense light that is coming from tablets and cell phones and things like that, the propaganda that comes through telecommunications, and then also the very, very harmful and corrosive world of lies that has been implanted into the biological world. This stuff ain't lying to you by accident. It is lying to you very, very purposefully. So that system, that is this stuff, the administrative aspect of this, which is, the pseudo or anti-intelligence or the general stupidity, and this stuff itself, it chooses any answer except for the correct answer. If answer letter A is the correct answer on the test, it will choose any answer other than letter A. Cucumber, umbrella, potted plant, kitten, tomato, fuzzy, platypus, anything. It is insane also. That is the world that you are in right now. That is how difficult it is for you to come of age in a world of literal insanity. And Charlie B says, AI is anti-intelligence. Makes a lot of sense. I have many tech examples, just as light is truth and stimulative and nourishing. The anti-light is anti-truth, stimulative, and not nourishing and not intelligence. Absolutely agree. And in that sense, I love what you said, Charlie B. Thank you for being here and for your mind. Says anti-intelligence is actually corrosive. All right. So think of it in this way. Real light is nourishing and it is sustaining you. That's why I told you about ancient Atlantis, not just for like my yearbook of memories, not just going into nostalgia for you, but really trying to get you to comprehend that light is meant to be nourishing. And when it is in the right way, it's perfect undulative waveforms that flow through you that nourish and sustain you and help you to grow and keep on going. But when it's not formed in the right way, it is corrosive. And that's most of what you're being exposed to right now. Most of what you're being exposed to is stimulative energy that is not correctly formed and is corrosive. And that's not okay, because it's not okay to just be like, sticks and stones may break my bones, but lies will never hurt me, right? That's kind of like an old, hopscotch thing that kids say to each other. But lies can be corrosive. And that there's actually a type of trauma that happens in your body when you're exposed to lies. This is what happens with the millimeter wave. The millimeter wave is or are comprised of corrosive lies that speak to your cells. And again, I have my crystal set on 5G protection all the time. And what I do when I help people in sessions is go through their body and take out all the corrosive lies. And I think that a lot of health complaints over the past 5 years that people have had have nothing to do with either traditional communicable diseases or other metabolic imbalances. They are a direct response of the inflammation of the body to corrosive lies. And Charlie B says, great point. Anti-truth stimulative is the same as corrosive. Thank you. You got it. And all of this is groceries. I'm giving you guys groceries. And none of this was in my recipes from 10 years ago because different time and place. So like when I do my sun gazing, a lot of the time what I get are my mandates for how I'm going to communicate to you guys. My ideas of how to share the most salient and empowering information come directly from my interactivity with the sun. So, and if I just give you like, what's a workable solution? So we had bad weather this morning, not able to sun gaze first thing, no worries. Eventually the sun did come out and I went outside into a nice place, shady spot underneath a tree. And I did my flying rainbow lasagna dance and I did the sun gazing. And I didn't speak enough in the sun gazing, but I'll teach you more, as the semester goes on, because it's not just about the sun, it's also about the earth. So these are representative allegories. Your planet Earth is not just about the planet that you stand upon, it is about physical matter. I'm pointing at my body here. This is your physical matter. And what you're doing is becoming a bridge of light, your DNA dance bridge of light between physical matter, like protons and neutrons and electrons, and the ephemera that is light, the non-physical radiative energy of the world. And that what flying rainbow lasagna is actually a bringing together in seamless dovetailing, perfect, like Japanese wood joinery of matter and energy. That is what you are doing with this sun gazing practice, bringing pure information light into the physicality structure of your body, imbuing the electrons and protons of your physical matter of your body with light. Okay, so I'll get one more question and then I'll go back to the curriculum. Hi, Aurora, Trish says, and thank you for being here. It's good to see you. Can we consider pure light, or free electrons, and false light, like a light held static in time, like electrostatic? Aren't we the pure light? held in false light in this presence? Beautiful question. I love the direction that you're talking about here. Yes. So the best answer that I can give to you is that some aspect of real, but basically false light is a distortion of real light and real energy on its journey and on its pathway. Instead of light being totally free and totally feral and being able to go exactly where it needs to go on its journey of flowing through various time features and physicality structures, it is held in stasis fields. Trauma is literally light energy that is being held in a stasis field. So if you have experienced any amount of trauma, and that can be from like being a little tiny 3-year-old child where someone gave you an ice cream cone and it fell on the ground. And in that moment of the ice cream falling on the ground, you couldn't believe it was happening to you. That's trauma. That trauma is that frozen moment of like, something bad is happening. This is not allowed. How can this happen? The injustice, the incomprehensibility of it, the wrongness of it leaves a person frozen in that moment of like, the ice cream fell on the ground. Like that is not supposed to happen. And it can be the ice cream falling on the ground. It could be someone you love dying. It could be a horrible car accident. It can be any magnitude of those assaults and what is the word, insults to your sense of righteousness and truth about the way that reality is even supposed to be structured. The good news is that in a pristine system, when one is traumatized, that energy eventually does flow again. And that's personal growth and healing, where eventually the 3-year-old aspect of you and yourself frozen in that moment flows, is healed, comes back to you. And you're like, this is you, you're like, there, self. It's okay that the ice cream fell on the floor. It was a bad thing, but we're through it now, okay? But what's been happening is here's the Earth, and then here's a bunch of satellite crapola that is creating a stasis field, literally, around the planet. Here's your neighborhood, and here's a bunch of cell phone towers around your neighborhood that is creating a stasis field, so that when your ice cream drops on the floor, you don't get to have that flowing moment of acceptance and everything is going to be okay. And there, dear, that version of you gets stuck in time. And that becomes the louche harvest or the ballast that is serving the genuine stupidity, that serves that network that really can only exist and thrive or grow based upon unresolved trauma. So first of all, every time you resolve your own trauma or help another person to resolve their trauma, personal, individual, familial, ancestral, or planetary, a demon goes hungry. The genuine stupidity has energy removed from it. Yes. Resolving trauma. Like if you guys want to know, like, how can I go into empowerment? How can I get my back and my shoulders to go up? What can I actually do about this? Resolve trauma, resolve trauma, resolve trauma. How does one resolve trauma? So this is a little bit more complex. I do some really complex maneuvers where I am able to open up the jar really fast. That's what I call it, like burping the lid of a Tupperware, where you've got, the container, the lid, the fireflies are inside. Just open up that lid really fast, get those traumas out, just release them, let them go out. There is this actual flow of energy that is, you know how they say like water is the universal solvent? Time is really the universal solvent. That time resolves those traumas. You really comprehend this. So you do the trauma resolution work for yourself and for others. So also a big thing that I can say to you is this genuine stupidity network. It doesn't have a mainframe. It doesn't have a central CPU. Like your computer has a central processing unit, and then it has these different accoutrements like a keyboard and other stuff, but it has like a central hard drive. And if you took the hard drive and you smashed it with a hammer, that's where all of the information is contained. But this stuff is non-centralized and it's in every single person. So you can't just be like, we'll just smash the hard drive and we'll get rid of that naughty old system, right? That's not going to work. So you have to understand the trauma that is held in stasis fields by the telecommunications network frequencies and also the ongoing sky poops, Starlink satellites, sky turds, that is what is holding the trauma in stasis in this world right now. And that it's decentralized. So it requires a big giant cleanup where each person has to clean up in your own body. So it begins to act local, then expand, all right? Start local, then act global. Begin with your own body, where you clear out the trauma from your own body. So again, I've gotten really good my building of my small business. And I'm able to not only clear out my own body, but clear out other people's bodies. And I do that. So I do me, I do other people in sessions, I do neighborhoods, I do drive-by clearings. I do it all the time, guys. I love it. I go through while walking my dog outside in the neighborhood. We do drive-by clearings. We clear the whole neighborhood. We're clearing out trauma all over the place. I know it's great because these demons are getting really, really hungry. And also, I told you, I work with a whole group of psychic warriors that we go around doing this, and we get soul fragments out of hell. And it is part of our service to humanity. And it is also part of like wanting to live in a world that is not strewn with garbage and sewage and not horrifically infested, and that is not going to go swirling down the cosmic toilet. So it's good on many, many levels to be able to do this. Don't be overwhelmed. Begin in your own life. And one envisionment that you can do, and you can do it with yourself, but you might need someone that's helper to help you anchor the energy back to who you are now. Go back to that moment when you dropped your ice cream cone. You stay in this moment, but you go back to that moment, and you can imagine like reaching your hand back in time to that version of you. And you have to have a lot of love, because that version of you that dropped the ice cream cone is like, I'm scared. I'm lonely. I don't like what happened. God has abandoned me. My ice cream has been dropped, and it needs love. And you need to have so much love that it can feel your love and see you as like a beacon of love. And you just say, I know you dropped your ice cream cone. Please come with me. Please come with me. Don't be in that moment of regret. Come with me. I love you, and come back to me. And you bring that fragment of yourself into the present. And this is instead of the dilution and dispersal of yourself across time, the reconcentration and refocusing of yourself into the present moment now. And this is absolutely essential for ascension, the refocusing of lost fragments of self into the present moment now. And then I say Japanese dovetail joinery. Have you ever seen that joints that they make in carpentry in Japan, these ancient techniques? They don't use glue. Everything fits together like the most perfect puzzle pieces. That's what you do with these soul fragments. You bring them back to you, and you reintegrate them perfectly, all right? So I would say start with a not very large trauma, unless you've got someone to be your anchor, because we don't want you to get stuck back there. We want you to stay here and bring that stuff here. So you might need to have someone help you to anchor here, so that you can go with your arm and bring that stuff back here. Don't try 22 bags of groceries at once until you have the muscles to do that, all right? So be sensible, start with something small, build your muscles, and then become greater, have greater ability in this practice. Trish says lost and found. Exactly. And the truth is, once you do it, like do it on a small level, all right? Like you dropped your ice cream cone, do it on a small level. You will feel so much better that you will get really excited to do it again. It's just like when you go to the gym and then you walk out, and then the next day you're like, wow, I feel better. Doesn't my legs feel great? My legs feel like springs. I feel like I can run. I feel like I can play. I feel like I can jump. You will feel so much more yourself. And again, it's not a forgetfulness about who you were. It's not an amnesia. It's not like the ice cream cone never happened. It means that you regain all that you lost, and you still remember the bad thing that happened. But what happens now is you are fully integrated. So you don't have a repeat performance. You don't have the same thing happen to you again, because now you are like fully stabilized in who you are. So repeat traumas only happen because of the dispersal of self across time. All right. But this is deep stuff, because think about this. What really fills hotel hell with these fragmented, lost trauma fragments of self is the lobby of regret. That almost every single one of those pieces of a person entered in through what I call the lobby of regret. And that's that first moment that says, I never should have held my ice cream cone in that way. I should have eaten it faster. I should have held onto it better. I never should have done this and never should have done that, even if it's totally no fault, even if it's totally not your fault, if there's no blame. Some people are like, they get in a terrible car accident. They're like, I never should have gotten in my car on that day. I never should have made that left turn. I never should have this. I never should have that. That's the lobby of regret. You don't have to feel those feelings. You need to love yourself into the present beyond that entryway or vestibule that brings you into those stagnations of hell. This is deep, deep work that I'm telling you guys about, that it takes an enormous amount of courage to do this. And I want you to do it. I want you to know the magnitude and profundity of what this practice is. And you can also, there's recapitulation, which again, I'm not a total endorser. Let me just finish drinking all of my wonderful sustenance here. Carlos Castaneda, flawed at best, but brought us some really interesting groceries from the grocery store in the concept of recapitulation, which is a breath exercise that is very similar to what I'm talking about. In recapitulation, and you can read about it, it is the action of remembering a particular, usually painful memory, and breathing in. I'll just stop on my treadmill for a minute so that my balance doesn't get me off here. But breathing in across the horizon, where you breathe in the memory of what bad thing was that happened to you, and then breathe out, let's say, the metabolites of not having yourself as a whole person. You breathe in and reclaim what was left behind, and you breathe out the disempowerment of not being fully whole and present from the regrets that you've had. It's a soul clearing exercise, and it's very, very deep and very, very profound. So not a full endorsement of Carlos Castaneda, but that is a powerful practice that you can do. And it really works well with things that are like relationships, because if you start, and this relates directly to ascension. If you start to go into ascension and like garbage starts to bubble up, and you think about like an old lover or sexual violence, something that happened to you that was not consensual, then what you can do is breathe in yourself in the experience, breathe out and release the metabolites, the regret, the pain of not being your full self. And it is literally a regulative exercise that you're doing in terms of energy work, regulative, like homeostasis. You bring yourself back to homeostasis through reclaiming your energy and releasing the energy of others. It's powerful, powerful, deep work. Okay. And Trish is asking, trauma is like burnout to the electrons. Here's the best way I can talk about the electrons. This stuff doesn't eat food, but it does want your food. It is a parasite-like form of technology, and it is only able to access your food at the level of your mitochondrial membrane, which is where something happens called the electron transport chain. When you take methylene blue, it helps to protect your electrons from being eaten and utilized by parasites. Not only parasites like malaria, but also parasites like what I have written on my bad news notebook over here. So methylene blue helps a lot in a biochemical, substantive, molecular way to protect your electrons from being stolen and mispurposed from you. But also, you must practice boundaries in your spirituality, because the biochemistry is representative of your mental state and values system. So how do you become empowered in your biochemistry? By intentionally being conscientious in your boundaries and your spiritual boundaries. And when I talk about spiritual boundaries, what I'm talking about is who you are in the world, and also how you wish to be treated in the world. And a lot of trauma happens because of the sense of being mistreated as a person, or treated in a way that is not in alignment with who you wish to be in the world. It's basically like saying, if somebody speaks to you badly, that's not the same as like being stabbed with a knife, but it is traumatic because it is not in alignment with the definition of who you wish to be in the world. So if someone speaks to you badly, and if your energetic metabolism is going fast enough internally, what you're able to do is you're able to say to them in the moment, hey, I don't appreciate the way that you just talked to me. This, and this is wrong. This is who I actually am in the world. All right. But that's not how most people experience things. Mostly people's energetic metabolism is so slow that they have something happen. Someone says something to you like, oh, nice rainbow dress you have there, Aurora. And then they walk away. And then you go home and you're like, what are they? Nice rainbow dress. Like, I like my rainbow dress and I like who I am and this and that. And you spend hours and hours and hours thinking about it. But if you're fast in the moment, you're able to talk to them and you're able to say, I don't appreciate the way that you just spoke to me about my dress. I like who I am in the world. You know, go away if you can't say anything nice, like, you know, any kind of thing. When you do that, what you're doing is establishing a verbal boundary, and you're able to say, this is who I am in the world, and this is how I wish to be treated. Now think about this. Think about the way that the governments have propagandized you, especially over the past 5 years. Think about the way that the millimeter wave has been rolled out in your neighborhood, whether or not you liked it. Think about the way that subcutaneous pollutions and other things have happened in your community. Many, many things have happened that you didn't have an opportunity to vocalize and stand up and say, I don't like what is happening here. I want to set a boundary and say, you're not allowed to do that to me. I don't like the way that I'm being treated. Every time that happens and boundaries are violated, that's a trauma. And every time that you hear a lie on the TV, or a lie about the justification for the loss of human and personal rights, or a lie about the agenda of various different organizations, you are slightly traumatized. And what that means is almost the entire population has dispersive aspects of self going back into the past. The version of you that didn't get a chance to stand up and say, hey, you know, don't make fun of my dress. I like who I am in the world. You didn't get a chance to stand up and say, hey, don't subcutaneously pollute my community. Hey, don't irradiate my community. Hey, stop putting up those sky poops. Stop pooping in my sky. All of these things, these are all traumas. And the traumas then in the encapsulation of the stasis field, rather, make it very difficult for each person to be empowered. They are intentionally disempowering traumas. So this is very, very different than an accidental dropping of your ice cream cone when you're 3 years old. That's when you're starting to learn about gravity and muscular control and all sorts of things like that. It's very different than the intentional agenda to traumatize and I would say victimize, disempower the population through these continual propagandizements and lies and hatred, and to hold that hatred in a stasis field that's in your own body. Now, the positive aspect of this is things that are in your own body. Remember, I think maybe 1 or 2 weeks ago, I walked like this. I was like, I'm Sheriff Aurora, and I'm in charge of my own body. You're in charge of your own body. You are the sheriff of your own body, and I want you to swagger like you have large equipment when you walk along and say, I am in charge of my body. Yes, please. Yes, please. Yes. Yes, you are in charge of your own body. And then there's definitely no question whatsoever. This is what it is to set a boundary. This is my body, and I get to choose what is going on inside of my own body. And that definitely relates to frequency. So in the world that you're coming out of, you have to set very strong boundaries, and you get to be in charge of what is internal in your own body. And then at the other end of this process, we come into states of unity consciousness, where you can have all the groceries and share all the groceries openly and freely with everyone else, because you've gone through this heavy boundary setting process. All right. And Trish says everything you said and saying is so accurate. to your now timeline. You got it. You got it. Yeah. So this is also very essential. And that's why sometimes I diverge from the curriculum, because it's needed. These are the groceries that you need in this moment to be able to be empowered. But let's talk about pot. Let's talk about cannabis. Yeah, that's good, guys. Okay, well, my whiteboard is having a little bit of a problem right now, so I just won't be drawing it out for you. But this all relates to the cosmic infrastructure. Cannabis is actually the basis of human civilization. The land of China actually translates to the land of hemp. And this is from 5,000 years ago, cradle of civilization. Hemp is one of the foundations in your biochemistry of what it has made it possible for you to grow into, what is called civilized humanity, both in the use of it for fiber, for seeds, which is, food that will sustain you, both the proteins and the oils in the seeds, and also for medicines. There is and are a series of receptors and circulatory systems in your body that's related to your light body that's called your endocannabinoid system. Endo meaning within. So you have a naturally occurring system within your body that is made for cannabis. And it has been artificially taken out of your food supply. In other cultures and other times and places, the cannabis was a natural part of your food supply. It would be in almost everything that you ate. And also there were none of these corrosive frequencies that made it so that it was not staying in your body. Like there's lots of things that are corrosive right now that reduce your sense of health and well-being and vitality. And those are all non-natural. So in an ideal pristine system, it would be a natural part of your food supply, and it would not be corroded and dissipated by the sewage of errant frequencies that you're being subjected to. More recently, so that's China from 5,000 years ago, but even more recently, hemp was the basis of a lot of agriculture and commerce in the United States. There was a time in the United States when you could literally pay your taxes in bales of hemp. And this is what hemp farmers did because the hemp was so required for the large ropes and rigging and sails on all of the big, giant, tall sailing ships for the Navy, all right? But in World War II, the stories and laws changed and hemp became illegal to grow, and it was taken out of the food supply because the farmers, they would grow it for fiber, but they would take the leaves and they used to feed it to their animals in the form of silage, spelled S-I-L-A-G-E, which is a fermented vegetable product. Fermenting helps make it more bioavailable to the animals. So they would feed it to the pigs, and the cannabinoids would go into the pig's meat. And they would feed it to the cows. It would go into the cow's meat, into their milk, and into their butter. And they would feed it to the chickens. It would go into their meat and into their eggs. So the precursors to having a healthy endocannabinoid system were previously available in your commercial food supply. Since World War II, they have not been available in the food supply, all right? And when humans in science started to research neurology, they started to research the neurological structure of people that had deficient endocannabinoid systems, which is all of you, everyone. And they said, there is a one-way street that goes from the brain to the extremities, because they didn't know and couldn't perceive that there is actually a two-way street that is dependent on this bi-directional signal processing that happens in the presence of a healthy endocannabinoid system. Oh, I forgot to mention, human breast milk naturally contains cannabinoids and is a major part of the ability for babies to ingest food and thrive. That is essential for babies to be able to be here, be alive, eat food, and live. So just comprehend that this is part of like the foundational structure of what it is to be alive and be here. Because when you first come here, your body is like, food goes in here. You have to learn food goes in here. And the endocannabinoid system and what is in the mother's breast milk helps the body of the baby and its digestive tract to even recognize the substances that are being placed in it as a nourishing substance that is food, that has nutrients, that is supposed to become internalized and be a part of the body. I don't have physical children myself, but I have done a lot of childcare, and some of you might be parents, and you might know that it's actually very challenging. Like, you have to teach your baby how to swallow and not spit up. You have to teach your baby how to burp. You have to teach your baby what to do with gas. Babies cry a lot because they are like having digestive issues and they think they're going to die. Like, it takes the first year to be able to figure out how to have a digestive tract, how to eat and swallow and pee and poop effectively. This is not an easy task at all. And the endocannabinoid system is absolutely essential for that, okay? So the endocannabinoid system is also a huge part of regulating signals in the body. So now this is when I would usually go to the whiteboard and I would draw a neuron structure. Here's the end of one neuron. It kind of comes in a long, long line. There's the axon, and then it comes down to the end. And then there's a gap here that is called the synaptic cleft or the synaptic gap. And then here's the next neuron. And this is kind of like energy impulse, like electricity. And when it gets to the end over here, it can't jump because this is actually like as big as the Grand Canyon. To a little tiny neuron, that amount of space is like you trying to jump across the Grand Canyon. So what does the impulse do? The nerve impulse must turn itself into a chemical impulse where it becomes molecularized and becomes a series of molecules that are able to go across, they're called neurotransmitters, the synaptic gap, make it to the other side, and then continue with that nerve impulse to be able to create the nerve structure and whatever communicative structure throughout the entirety of your body, all right? When you have a pain signal, especially chronic pain, what is happening is the pain signals are constantly going through those synaptic gaps. Even when your brain has already learned, like, yes, like I have stubbed my big toe. Thank you very much for that pain signal. I don't need to be feeling that pain signal anymore, or whatever it is. And the reason for that is because of the lack of cannabis in the endocannabinoid system. So when the cannabinoid system is healthy and those substances and neurotransmitters are available, what they do is they fill up the synaptic gap over here, and they say, hey, we don't need any more pain signals. We know, we stubbed the big toe. We know, we feel it. We don't need to hear this anymore. And that is a huge part of comprehending how your body actually works. It is also an allegory for the limitations that have happened from human objective materialist science, studying bodies that are essentially malnourished and malformed, and then looking at that as if it is normative, saying that something is a unidirectional system when it is actually multi-directional, but they've never seen it functioning on every level. So the dietary building blocks are what creates those neurotransmitters that end up regulating pain signals in the body through the neurology. So the idea of light flowing in a unidirectional vector away from the sun and the nerve impulse flowing in a unidirectional flow around the body are analogous. Remember, I was talking several hours ago at this point in the lecture about the idea of the sun being over here and how if you don't have this light bounce off of anything, it just keeps going forever, all right? And that when the light flows into you, it flows through you, you do your sungazing or your meditation, you send that light back to the sun, you send those signals back to the sun. Got it? So the sun emits visible light, but it also emits consciousness and timelines. And the heliosphere is analogous to the totality of the human form. And just as we have senses that perceive our limbs, the sun has senses that perceive what is happening all the way out to its periphery. And this includes not only ourselves here on this planet, but the entire solar system. And I've spoken about how each planet is its own consciousness and its own level of awareness, and represents one of the children, offspring, or art projects, biological art projects of the sun, and is a stage of growth or evolution. And your smaller individual tiny brain in your human body is a much, much larger solar stellar brain in the body of the sun and the stars. The senses that extend well past the exoplanets, like Neptune, Uranus, and Pluto. The sun knows what you are experiencing, and it's necessary to recognize that the sun emanates light and consciousness outward, and that as it interacts, it has a change in its quality that then changes its emanations in response, like a biofeedback loop. Like if you stub your toe, you're like, ow, I stubbed my toe. I think I'll stop doing that now. And then you say to your toe, okay, toe, you can stop hurting me now, right? And in our lives, we respond to the sun and we say, hey, everything's not okay. My car is about to hit a brick wall. Do something. And the sun says, oh, I just got your message. I'll be sure to do something and change and fix that right away. And this is all directly analogous to the healthy functioning of your endocannabinoid system. And this even relates to the accumulated pain signals of unresolved traumas in the entire galactic infrastructure. Because you might have stubbed your big toe, but what is happening on a larger level are things that are planetary destructions, planetary invasions, and other forms of trauma and harm that have been all throughout our galaxy. And it's not a unidirectional journey. The sun and the stars are responsible for and responsive to these very great imbalances that then need to be healed. And the real healing is about mitigating these pain signals from unresolved traumas from much, much larger bad things that have happened. I know, trying to kind of synopsize these notes and read them at the same time. Okay, planetary ascension. You are personally involved in a biofeedback loop with the sun, and that involves food, chlorophyll, your intestines, and you are a refinery of energy. Of course, you're eating food, like I just drank my wonderful coffee, and I'm refining that food energy into kinetic energy and cognitive energy and verbal energy. We've spoken a lot in this class about the pooties, those pesky occupiers of the interstices. I'll always give a hat tip to Pedro, came up with that analogy for us. The non-natural state of consciousness residues, things that are lower vibrational thought entities who are unresolved pain signals of the stubbed toe of the cosmic infrastructure that are constantly saying, ow, 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 that things are not okay, and that there is something that needs to be resolved. I want you to know that my definition of love is not wov. Not wov, like wov. Two cute animals holding hands, like a baby squirrel and a baby otter, or something like that. But love is instead a cosmic tone that is happening when you are fully embedded in the moment, with not carrying a bunch of previous traumas that dilute you out into the past, but also not hugely out of balance because you're destabilized, anticipating and thinking about the future. But love also can be translated as acceptance about the truth of who and what an organism is. So when you love something, you are not trying to change it. And this is very, very big, that my work is never taken out of context. If you love the consciousness residues that exist on the membrane of death, and that's right over here, and if they are there because of their own horrible, horrible, misguided life choices and things that they did that they need to take responsibility for, if you love them, that does not mean that you're like, that's okay, let's be friends, otters holding hands. No, when you love, you accept And that is the acceptance of saying, wow, these things or people or organisms or organizations made horrible life choices that brought them into an impossible or very uncomfortable, final moment or culminative moment, and that's who they are. That's love. Sometimes and you can directly translate this into your human relationships. Love is not trying to change your partner or community members. You're not going to love someone into being different. Love is acceptance of who they are. So if they have gambling addiction, then you love that they have a gambling addiction. That means you do not give them the rent money because they have a gambling addiction. They will gamble it away. Love is acceptance. So love does not mean that you love these pooties and then eventually there will be kumbaya, holding hands, everybody's friends. It's not gonna be like that. That's a big, 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 big thing. And because I read a lot of things, I'm on social media and I applaud people on their spiritual journey and trying to be uplifting and share with others. And I watch people going through their various levels of personal evolution and growth. And sometimes they speak about the need for forgiveness. But I really want to affirm this to you, that love is at the basis of any interactivity, any relationship, including relationship with these demonic negative entity thought forms, consciousness residues, those who invaded ancient Atlantis, the negative perturbations they created in the time field, and the genetic invaders that are still present in the genetic code that you experience in your current day-to-day life. That you cannot use the concept of love and forgiveness as a free pass, as a get out of jail free card, as a denialism, and as a spiritual bypassing for the very, very real harm that has been done in the world as a result of the interactivity and the choices that were made by these various different types of entities or levels of consciousness. And again, I started out this sharing today by telling you that I am not in alignment with the strictly deterministic viewpoint of the world, as that is the abdication of personal authority and of responsibility. And the pooties and the organisms that are these unresolved pain signals of the world. So just, you're an analogy. You stubbed your toe and your toe is still throbbing and saying, ow, ow, ow. Somebody stubbed their toe on Mars. Somebody stubbed their toe on Tiamat. It's still throbbing. It's still saying, ow, ow, ow. But the problem is that those pooties, and they've been destabilizing your world and feeding on you and genetically modifying you and causing all sorts of harm and disease and really bad stuff, all right? They have not taken responsibility for what they're doing. In fact, instead, many ask, and you can tell from my face, I get mad, get inflamed from this. The onus and the burden is being placed on you, which is like saying, just don't let them feed on you. Just don't get mad. Just this and just that. No, actually, they can just take responsibility for what they've done. That is real love. Real love is not putting the responsibility and the burden on you to shield yourself and endlessly resist their destabilizing tactics and endlessly resist their attacks on you and endlessly enable them in their lack of personal responsibility as they, falsely assert things like their innocence or their disempowerment or their non-responsibility. When one asserts one's own non-responsibility, that is the death of soul. That is when people say, it ain't my fault. Someone else made me do that. I didn't do that. Something else did that through me. Blah, blah. Many, many justifications and lies. And what is the word? So angry, I can't think of the word. Excuses. None of that is acceptable. Soul comes from responsibility. So if these guys made a crap time machine and they got smeared on the membrane of death, and they didn't have access to life or life force resources, it's really not acceptable for them to say, wah, wah, it ain't my fault. Now I'm going to eat you. That is not acceptable. And it's not your job to enable them and say, they're on their journey and they're going to, this is my SpongeBob face, they're on their journey. And I hope the AI doesn't choose that as my thumbnail. It always chooses a SpongeBob face. They're on their journey and they're doing the best they can. And they didn't know, and this and that. No, you can't do that. You cannot enable them. Love is setting firm boundaries for them. So, and it's also for you to have to then spend 97% of your energy fighting against the Pooties and clearing them out and preventing them from harming you in your life and harming your loved ones in your life is a complete aberration, because that's life force energy that you should be spending towards living. Life force energy is for the living. It is not for the dead. And these are dead things. Life force energy is for life. It is for building life, maintaining life, and sustaining life. And these consciousness entities, or whatever they are, residues, are things that no longer have life. And they should not try to live through you. And they should not be trying to gain energy from the living. And they should not be having an influence on the living. They should have zero access to life force energy. Now, once again, I want you to swagger. I want you to swagger like the sheriff, because you get to make that choice in your own body. And then as you learn to carry more groceries, you get to make that choice for your whole community and your whole planet. It's big stuff. Start with your own body. Cells in your body and genetic quotients in your own body that are taking life force energy, which is literally the energy of time that flows from the sun, that is this incredibly valuable phenomenon and resource, should flow to you and to the living and to the living aspects of your cellular body, and should be used towards your own longevity and coherence. It should not be siphoned off towards the sustenance of things that have already abdicated their own lives, killed themselves, blown up their own planet, refuse to take responsibility, and refuse to change, learn, or grow. That's very, very big stuff. And what it equates to is, like, in your own body, removing life force energy and removing time flow from cells which are not supportive of the health of the entire body. And you would call those cancer cells. You would call them, or diseased cells. And the best word for them is pathogenic. Pathogenic cells act for their own sustenance and not for the sustenance of the entire body. You can live a pretty good life even if you have pathogenic cells in your body. But you shouldn't have to have a diminished life, maybe only having access to 57% of your energy because you've got whatever, 43% pathogenic cells in your body. Shouldn't have to live that way. This is big, because I'm going to say some things that might be difficult to hear about your world structure. Because when you can learn to carry more groceries, you're going to be like, wow, you know something? Because the inside reflects the outside, and that is the essence of what flying liberal lasagna is. As you change and transform yourself and your body and your energy field and your time field and your connection to the sun and the stars and how your cells and your DNA act, your human social constructs will change. Your social dynamics will change. Your economics will change, all right? You've got pathogens in your world, not just in your body. So in your body, you would consider that to be any cell that's pooping and making a lot of bad stuff that is harming the rest of the body, right? Poops and it doesn't do anything good. You would also say a pathogenic cell is one, because it takes resources and then it doesn't serve the rest. Takes resources and doesn't serve the rest of the whole, right? And if you have enough of that, then what you have is like, a tumor or a growth or an overall metabolic disease of pathogenesis that prevents your whole entire body from being alive. You have that in your planet right now. You have that in media. You have it in your government. You have it in your economy. You have a whole class of people that are embodied people with arms and legs who do not serve the whole, who take up huge amounts of resources, who metabolize and poop a lot, make a lot of pollution, and at this point have grown in their prevalence so much that it threatens the health of your whole entire planet. And there's not a way for you to just live well in spite of them. This is big stuff, because at that point, what you have to do is cut off resources of time and life force energy from those pathogens and pathogenic structures that do not serve the whole. When you go into unity consciousness, you don't have to have boundaries because you're in a perfect balance between serving yourself and serving the whole. You're still in the learning process of how to balance serving yourself and serving the whole. When we went through the ascension process in ancient concurrent Atlantis, that is what we learned, how to balance out individuation with responsibility to serve the collective or the environment that sustains you. Look, if you don't serve the environment that sustains you, at a certain point, you don't have an environment. When I say environment, I speak not only of the planetary infrastructure, like the ocean and the soil, but I speak really about time. If you poop all over time, at a certain point, you destabilize time so much, you don't have a time field to live in anymore. And that is what this stuff does. Because this stuff goes into DNA. Hey, you know what's new within the past 5 years or so? Pooping into DNA itself directly. And DNA is the bridge of light that connects you to time itself. And those pollutions, I should say more formally, instead of poops, polluting DNA intentionally destabilizes the time field. And you cannot do that because you live within time. If you destroy time, you don't have a world to live in. So this is very, very different than some of these very, I want to say, idiotic, short-sighted, not correct viewpoints that state planets are disposable, destroy your planet, move on to the next. No, can't do that. And when you destroy time, where are you going to go? You can't just be like, well, destroy the time field, move on to the next what? The next what? There is not another place to go. This is the insanity that you are facing. The stuff that destroyed Tiamat, the stuff that destroyed Mars, the stuff that's inside, that then jumped inside of you, is here now, and it's trying to destroy time. It's not just trying to destroy your planet, it's trying to destroy time itself. That is the ultimate body that you are contained within, not just the planet. Time space. If you destabilize time space, you don't have an existence to exist within. And that is what this stuff is doing. Cannot have that in your world. Cannot live alongside of that stuff in your world. You have to set incredibly strong boundaries in this moment in order to get to unity consciousness so that you can then relax and live in a state of total generosity. You have to rescind life force energy from that which would destroy time. This is such big stuff because there's been a direct assault on time here. Some of that assault comes from large infrastructures. That would be like a large hadron collider. Some of it comes from tiny infrastructures that are inside of you. Some of these infrastructures you didn't put inside of you. Some of them a neighbor put inside of the neighbor by going down to a little van that was parked at the park or maybe at your local church and allowing subcutaneous pollutions to go inside of them. And then those subcutaneous pollutions have been harming the time field and coming inside of you and harming you. You're now starting to recognize that when you really, this is ascension, when you really are getting through the concept of unity consciousness, it's not acceptable to say that guy's going to go down to the little van where they give out free pollutions and get polluted and it's not going to affect everyone else. it's going to affect everyone else, and it's going to affect time. And you can't let that happen. Even more than people who volunteered to be able to get polluted. Who made the pollutions? Who made the little vials of pollutions? Who made the laboratories? Who disseminated them? Who disseminated the propaganda? Who organized the whole entire display of what was going on and the propaganda surrounding it? All of those people are equivalent to pathogens that literally cannot be in time. And this is big stuff, because let's say you had a magic wand. I'm gonna wave my magic wand. In this case, my magic wand is shaped like a mallet for my resonant instrument. Wave my magic wand and poof, I'm gonna destroy all of this stuff, all of this, technological stuff out of everybody's blood. But then you know what you still have? A bunch of people that act like pathogens. And if they would do it once, they would do it again. This is very, very big stuff. And this is not part of my original curriculum. It's actually so unimaginable. I didn't know I would have to speak about something like this, but I have to speak about something like this. You can't have that level of pathogenic intention and thought structure in time and still have time. So what you begin with is a removal of life force energy from those cells within your own body that have that level of pathogenic intention for your body. But then you know that you are going to have to remove life force energy and time energy from larger social structures and larger economic structures and social dynamics in your larger society. That might be difficult to hear. And that's, planetary ascension. That is what is going on with the planetary ascension. I know, because I talk all about all of these things in my notes about, I've talked about so many things. Like here's one where I say, if we lived in a realm populated by people who only emanated high quality ideas, the beings in the interstices would starve. This is truthful. But what if you erected a bunch of frequency emitters that make people who are healthy emit pathogenic thought structures that feed the foodies? That's what you've got in your world. You do not have a telecommunications network. You have a pooty feeding network. Somebody made those towers. Who made them? And the people who made them, do you think that they made them accidentally? Like, oops, I didn't know I was making a pooty buffet. Or do you think that they knew that they were making a foodie buffet and that they did that intentionally? And that is who and what was acting through them, because this stuff is in their minds and in their behavioral control systems, making them do that. And again, back to free will and determinism, they say, it ain't my fault because something was in me making me do it. But this stuff is in all of us and not all of us are doing it. I didn't erect a pooty buffet this morning. Did you? No, none of you did, which is why I say that I direct my lessons and my sharing here in these classes towards you as a group. And I'm so happy that I'm connected to the best humans, the best of the best. And that there's very much a real distinction that must be made between the message that I bring to you and how I speak to you about your journey and the contextualization of how you exist within the larger social dynamic of others in this world who have been not only complicit or passive in allowing this agenda to go forward, but who actively participated, acted like pathogens. And you can't say to them or about their life circumstance, wah, wah, it ain't their fault, determinism, fate, and lack of free will, because basically what that would say about them is that they have no soul. If that is asserted, or if they assert that about themselves, why am I any my fault? It's a puppet. I was a puppet. Something else made me do it. Then that's basically like saying they had no soul. They're saying that they rescind responsibility for anything that they've ever done. And it means that they've never done anything bad and they've never done anything good. And it means that they've never done anything. They've never done anything. Something else has done something. through them and through their bodies, and that there is no them, they have negated their own existence. And in so doing, they must go to entropy. Because if you don't have existence, you can't use resources, definitely not resources like life force, energy, and time. Again, this is very advanced stuff. I should open the floor to questions and comments on this because I want to be able to make sure that I'm really getting through to you accurately. Like what I talked to you about the stasis fields and the trauma factory, that is not in my class from 10 years ago. And what I just talked with you about those who have abdicated their souls, is also not in a sharing from 10 years ago. So first of all, Matiku, I hope I have your name correct, says, sorry, I was busy and I have another Zoom. Peace and love to all. Divine Harmonics. GG. Thank you for being here. Thank you for hopping in, even for a short amount of time. Very pleased that you're in the class. You can always catch the archive. So thank you for being here. And Charlie B says, we are ready for this. Removal of parasites at all levels. And Charlie B is emphasizing this. They are intent upon self-destruction and intentionally doing their homework wrong. You got it. You got it. And thank you for being such an excellent student and really internalizing my message over such a long amount of time. You comprehend that this is a one-room schoolhouse where some students are excellent students and you are the excellent students. You're all like B students and above, B, A plus, A++. You're all the good students. And what that means is that if on a soul level, you are shown a correction, something that you did incorrectly, did your math homework wrong, you need to learn and grow. You're like, look at that, I made a mistake, I need to learn and grow. And your mistakes are made out of innocence or out of ignorance, lack of knowing. This is wildly qualitatively different than a large segment of your population that makes its mistakes knowingly and intentionally. Do you know that there is a proportion of your population that knowingly and intentionally internalized this stuff? Let it go inside of their brains, let it take over their perception and behavioral control, and let it do stuff through them knowingly, knowing that it would be wrong. That can be difficult to even comprehend. Like sometimes good people watch murder mystery shows and other things about serial killers, and they do that in order to educate themselves because they can't even comprehend, like, people actually kill other people, like on purpose, on purpose. Sometimes people actually kill other people on purpose. I know, I clutch my pearls, but it happens. I would never do that. You guys would never do that, but some of these guys would do it. Be like a war. What about in a war? Would you kill someone on purpose in a war? Of course I would kill someone on purpose in a war. And I would kill someone who was trying to kill a tiny child. And I would kill someone who's trying to rape, an innocent kitten. Yes, I would kill someone under, whatever extreme circumstances to protect the innocent and to protect the time field. Yes, but I wouldn't kill people randomly. I wouldn't kill innocent people. This is big stuff. Some people would, and some people do. Some people are doing their math homework incorrectly. That means that they know they are doing wrong and they are doing it anyway. And they can't just have a free pass, which is how some people call for forgiveness. And you cannot allow that to happen. Big stuff here, because you have already done this time loop many times. And when you get to this point in the time loop, you guys are empowered because you guys have your souls. And if you say, I'll give you another chance, otters holding hands, let's be friends, learn and grow. Time field dies. You don't have a house to live in. You don't have time to exist within. You must uphold cosmic law. You must uphold these standards. Because if you do not uphold these standards, then what happens is you do not have the fabric of reality. You do not have the causality patterning that makes it possible for time to continue to exist. So you guys, we all have been given another chance. to make the right choice this time, which is the choice to hold accountable all of those who are accountable. That means you can't just give someone a free pass, can't just say it's not your fault, or school of life, or try again, or go back to first grade and try it again. It's big. Consequences and responsibility go together. And in this case, consequences means or equates to entropy, which is when an organism no longer has access to time. Pops out of time. It goes into a frozen state that no longer flows through time. It's not the same as being shot by a projectile weapon or burned to the stake or any kind of things like that. This is not the burning Christian hell. This is entropizing, freezing, removing from time something that has been directly assaulting time. And you get to have an opinion about this because you inhabit time. And guess what else? Time gets to have an opinion about this because time is in a live being. So I also say this very clearly to everyone. I do not have to harvest energy. I don't have to be like, hey, get on board with this idea structure so that we have a quorum and enough people to make this happen. Truth is, time field is enough. Just me and the time field from the things that have happened to both of us in terms of being assaulted by the ones who don't do their homework correctly is enough. So I don't have to be like, you know what I mean? Like motivational. I don't have to be motivating you to be like, come on board and do what I say. And, you know, like some kind of politician or something like that. You don't have to do anything if you don't want to. But also, I inform you of what's going on so that that way you can do stuff if you want to do stuff. Because without information or groceries or light, then you can't act. So you have to know what is going on. You have to know and be informed in order for you to have your soul. And yeah, in order, basically, for true responsibility and for true consent, you must be informed. Pedro says, we don't kill, we send to entropy. We are entropinators, exactly. Entropinators, entropizers. That is what it is. And it is a full removal of time and life force energy from that which should not have life or be in time because it has been directly attacking life and time. So just think about it this way. In your own body, there are some cells that are rogue cells that you do not wish to support. And I talked about this last week. You don't have to give those cells of your body oxygen or nourishment or glucose or anything. And you don't also have to just let them sit there being like, fine, like we'll just sit here, cells. You can actively dismantle them because you know why? Because, you know, like let's say if you just removed oxygen and, you know, other things from the cell would still be like eat, like I'm still here. I'm still kind of alive. I'm still doing stuff. All it needs to do in order to be evil again is just get some oxygen, you know, just get some more glucose. And then it goes straight back to being evil again. And of course, I'm using evil in a very slapdash manner, but you can't just keep it at neutrality because that's just a holding pattern. And what it is absolutely essential to do is to remove the life force energy from those cells in your body so that the cells are no longer alive and they are no longer in time. And then you're no longer threatened by them. Oh, Chiki's going over there. She's going to eat her food. Here, Dad, eat your food. Good. I told you she had a tummy ache. I'm very happy that she's feeling better and that she's eating her food. Yeah. And same thing in your societies. You will grow your light body. You will awaken your higher faculties. You will come to see all these things and you will come to be much more empowered. Time to entropize aspects of your economy and social dynamics and government. So you don't merely have to live your life well while those things like, let's say you stop paying your taxes would be the equivalent. But there's still these big giant edifices and they're like, we just get some taxes. Like we're going to start making your life hard again. Yeah, you get it? It's like a tumor that's just kind of sitting there being inactive and then hasn't really been dismantled. They're not desired or required. to act that way in your social dynamic. Things can only exist in time if time flows to them and in them and through them and sustains them. And when you remove time, it can only last for like when you're holding your breath, it can only last for a moment, and then it doesn't have anything to sustain it. That is what happens with these larger circumstances and the organisms, organizations, creatures, fragments, and people that are associated with them. And that just might be a difficult thing to hear, but I think that it's really not. I think that it's really not. I think that it would be more difficult to hear, like, no, like live with a cancerous tumor. You're like, no, actually, you really don't want to do that, even though I'm sure lots of people live their lives pretty well. Because you know what it means? Don't eat this, don't do that. Take a lot of medicine, always do this, never do this. And as long as you do everything and walk on tiptoes, then you'll still be alive. You don't need to do that. You don't need to do that. What you do is you remove life force energy and entropize and take out of time cells of your body that are not supposed to be there, and also the aspects of your society and the embodiment in your culture that are not supposed to be there. Because at this point, it would not be enough just to remove the pseudo-intelligence and just to remove the machine mind, just to remove this stuff over here, because then you would still have those pathogens in your society that, even if you removed all technology, they'd still get like a rock or a crossbow and find some way to try to harm you. That is what love is. Love is recognizing that a pathogen would either use a machine and a bunch of satellites to harm you, or a crossbow, or a rock, or whatever it could find. That is what love is. And that is really, harsh and doesn't sound very nice. It's a lot easier to preach a message of forgiveness and love than it is to say, I preach a message of very, very strong boundaries and enforcement of responsibility and enforcement of cosmic law. And I'm taking the much more difficult route by saying these things to you, because this is what actually sustains the time field, because I actually want to have a world to live in. So I encourage you to be in alignment with those idea structures that I'm sharing with you, and be focused on those realities, as opposed to in compromised realities that are just more negative time loops. Okay, Chiki's going to need a walk soon. Opening the floor to any questions, any more questions or comments or anything else that I can say to this. Oh, this is the most beautiful. Thank you, Joyce. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I love your message so much. Oh my goodness. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. Thank you very much. Really appreciate that. Thank you. Thank you very much. Your love too. Right back. Thank you. Pedro says loving a pootie means not hugging them, accepting what they are, and send them to entropy because of what they are. Well said. That is exactly what I'm saying. Exactly. And we also got your furry overlord right there. You have a friend. I could tell they'd be good friends. They're roughly the same size. They would be beautiful playmates together. Yes. And this is this is what my life was like too. It's not an easy path to be thinking these thoughts and being in these truths. It would think it's a lot easier to just kind of like go limp and not set boundaries. But the easy path, it just leads to destruction. And that longevity and coherence in this moment sometimes requires saying things that are more difficult and setting boundaries and enforcing them as well. So that's why, when I talk about my stuff from 10 years ago and contextualize that to what you're presently experiencing, and also contextualize that within what I call the binding spell of many of the major religions that teach you not only nonviolence, but they teach you not to fight back. Like not to fight back with words, not to fight back with resources, or not to fight back, not to offer resistance, essentially. All of that is control structure stuff. And none of that is valid. So your life might be easier if you followed a path of false light and established religious teachings and false forgiveness. And then what would happen is you'd go through another negative time loop and then have an opportunity to do it again. And then hopefully all of this would resonate and be like, I think I'll do it differently this time. And this time I'll actually set a boundary and make sure that this gets sent to entropy for real. So these are parallel experiences. This is what I'll end on. What you are experiencing here in this moment of embodiment and in the world of mortality is absolutely parallel to the ascension process and invasion and impending peril of what is happening or has happened in ancient concurrent Atlantis. And that your choices here and how you respond to what you are experiencing here have a direct effect on the rectification of time in that larger shell of reality that is, we don't have language to describe it, but let's say outside of or beyond this level of reality. That it's not written in stone that that place was imperiled and went into catastrophe, and then you'll have the same experience here. Not at all. That place is imperiled. This place is imperiled. That place faces a technological nightmare. This place faces a technological nightmare. That place faces mind and behavioral control structures. This place faces mind and behavioral control structure. That place faces betrayal by community members who are infested. This place faces betrayal by community members who are infested. And they're the same people. I want to leave you on something positive because I know this is a difficult topic. So what's something positive I can say, guys? Path of light is so much easier for me to talk about because it really is just about the viewpoint from the pristine level of what light is. When you're at the level of pure light, all of these difficulties are just totally recontextualized. Doesn't mean they're denied or that they don't exist. It means they're totally recontextualized. And I far prefer to be at that level of existence. But I am here with you now and bringing in that energy and telling you about what the path of light is very nourishing and sustaining to you. You have to effort and scrub the toilet and clean things up. And then once you do that, then you will be able to be in those levels of unity consciousness, relaxation, and generosity that are amazing and will be so comfortable and so joyous for you. So please don't stop your efforts. Please keep going. Please keep, I call it scrubbing the cosmic toilet. So that means doing everything you can in order to clean this stuff out of your body. Do everything that you can in order to clean and heal trauma and starve those demons of their energy source, as well as the pseudo-intelligence system of its energy source as well. But also, please take to heart all that I have told you about the removal of time and life force energy from structures that do not serve or uphold time. Because you can have a small amount of destabilization in the body and a small amount of pathogenic structure and bear it. But I think that we have reached too close to the tipping point where if you do not do something, that you will not be able to continue to have the time field. And it is essential for us all to do something. And also, you can also not do something. I will do it. I will scrub the toilet. I want you to know, whether or not you do it or someone else does it, I will do it. It will get done. So, because I didn't want you to feel like you have to do it all yourself. You're pretty young. You're tiny seedlings and infants of consciousness, but I will do it. All right. So you don't have to feel concerned or destabilized. Okay, let's see what Kate says. Kate says, Aurora, is this right to assume that the life review after death is actually done by the archons, putis as well? Oh, yes, let's do this. She says, if yes, how can the living being who embodied the divine soul be answering to the non-living parasitic entities in the first place, especially at the conclusion of their life experience? You hit the nail on the head, Kate. Thank you. And I hug you for your excellence of thought. That is a beautiful point to make. Absolutely. Absolutely. You must comprehend that the entire incarnational process has been hijacked by these usurpers who have no moral high ground and no business at influencing anybody else's life or life structure. So they should not be influencing you in life. Like they should not be telling you whether or not you're a good enough person during your life. And after you are alive, they have no business in being the administrators of your life review. They are totally invalid. And then they have no business shunting you between life circumstances or incarnational experiences. They should not be influencing where you are born or incarnate or what the level or quality of your life should be like. None of that. They have zero validity and zero authority on all of those levels. So they are 100% usurpers and interlopers and imposters. And there's a lot even that is going on the astral realm with astral imposters pretending to be religious figures, some of whom purport to be whatever is your religious flavor. They may purport to be Jesus Christ, judging you after you die or judging you in your life. This stuff also, I call it the techno inquisition, and I've spoken about that before. It judges you during your life, and it can give you happy zaps or sad zaps. It can give you rewards or punishments, depending upon what it purports to be positive or negative behavior. That has nothing at all to do with moralism, nothing at all to do with whether you are a good person or whether you are deserving. It gives people cancer as a punishment. Cancer is a genetic crime. Cannot do that and purport to have the moral high ground. It is 100% a miscreant, a criminal. The people that created it are criminals. So there's two things here. There's the system. The system is both the AI system, the fibers, and the software that is running. That's new stuff that's in our world. Then there's older things that you're talking about, like our archons, putis. Those are nothing more than the hugely irresponsible souls who have not taken responsibility for what they have done in their lives, and then have purported to be empowered over us in our lives. All of this is so hugely erroneous, and all of this equates to the unresolved pain signals of our entire galaxy that need to be resolved in order for us to genuinely have a real system where you can really experience and explore and learn and grow. You haven't had a real school the whole entire time. You have just had a wreckage and a punishment system of arbitrariness and distress. And that you can I can comprehend if people are in that system, why they might go into levels of despair, hopelessness, and feeling even abandoned by God and wondering how this could happen and how this circumstance could be so abused or that's not even the word, distorted. So what really has been happening is, because people think like, what about the sun and the stars? Like, didn't you just tell us they're like first violin and they're super responsible about everything? They're super responsible about everything. And light itself is responsible and responsive for how it is used. All of these levels of consciousness need to have a direct connection to you so that they can know what's going on and the system can be rectified. So you can do trauma removal for changing the system as your personal duty or contribution, and also flying rainbow lasagna and learning to reconnect directly to the sun and the world of pure light when you are able to have that direct rapport and to communicate to the world of pure light and say what is really going on here in terms of distortion mechanisms and false light and usurpation and power abuse, everything changes. It's not just the physicality of, wow, imperilment because you're going to hit a brick wall with your car. The sun and the stars need to know what is going on in terms of machine mind, intelligence, insanity that is pervading this world, how it is pathogenically influencing and imperiling you and your world, how it is diminishing your own personal educative experience at being alive and being individuated, and the very many injustices that are happening here. And because what I didn't get enough to say, like in Path of Light, what I talk about is how like the sun emits a narrative structure and then it bounces off of all of us. And then we send it back and the sun is like, oh, that's interesting. Well, I'm just going to change the calculations now and send it out so that it works better. And then we send it back and then it says, oh, that's interesting. I think I'll change the calculations now and then send it out again so that it works better. So like I talked about this a little bit. I'm an artist and I'm sketching and erasing and sketching and erasing and sketching and erasing. The sun is doing the same thing. And so what all of us need to do is have that direct rapport in every moment, sending back to the sun and the stars the real feedback of what we're experiencing, and to be in partnership with the sun and the stars. So not to look at them or it as if it is like a perfect thing, like like I said, an omniscient perfect presence. Like, what's the matter, you? Why aren't you doing something? To be like, okay, look, here's my clipboard. Here's my clipboard of all the things that are going wrong around here. This, and this. And this, and this, and this, and this. And then we need to do something about this now. And then be in a rapport with the sun and a partnership to change and do something about it. And again, it's like, it's not like I have to make a motivational speech for you to do this. But it is wonderful if you can do this. Because I don't want you to feel like there's not enough people, or we need a quorum, or any of those things. Like there's enough, and it's going to happen no matter what. But if you want to add to it and you want to do it too, please do it. We're talking about the symphony of life. All right. It's a fine line, is what I'm trying to say, because I'm not a salesperson that's here trying to be like, get on it, guys. Otherwise, we won't have a world. We're going to have a world. This is non-negotiable. We are going to have a world. I am going to make sure of it. But, and also, if you would like to be heroic, rise to the occasion, you can absolutely contribute to the perfection and sustenance of the world through flying rainbow lasagnaing, through reconnecting to the sun and the stars, through your own rectification efforts for time field, through personal trauma healing. That's it. That's, you know, what I have to say about it. I know I think it's just like, you guys are like, I think you should be more motivational and say like, no, like get off of our ASSs right now and do this right now. But this is not, because it's not like that. It's not like that. But I would absolutely love and adore for you to do so. And you will be celebrated in recognition flows. But it is, it's not something that you can make someone do. But I highly, highly encourage and wish for others to do about this too, for others to do this too, to know about it and to do it. That is my job here, and to inform you about this. What do you think? Have you read? Yeah. Charlie B says, yes, in capital letters, would like to help. Thank you. Thank you for rising to the occasion. That's who we need. Definitely. That's the caliber of the type of person. And Allison says, me too. And Pedro says, yeah, I like kicking the butt to jumpstart. Okay, Pedro, I'll be kicking your ASS. Everyone's going to get on board. We're going to do this. I am Coach Aurora because I help others through encouragement. Art says, count me in. Anwar says, I'm in. Thank you. Anwar is new. Thank you so much for joining us. Beautiful. That's a positive note for us to end upon. And Kate says, me too. Wonderful. I love that response. I adore all of you. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you very profoundly for who you are and for rising to the occasion. Thank you, everyone. All right. So that's a good note for us to end upon. I sent endless encouragement. Pedro also says, a light kick is a kick with light. Oh, good. I will only do a light amount of ASS kicking. And Trish says, thank you, Aurora. You're so very welcome, guys. Okay. Beautiful. Time to give Cheeky a walk. Now we use the magical activation words. WALK, walkies to the park. Thank you, Allison. Trish says thank you. Allison says thank you. Anwar says love you. Aurora, love received and love back. Truly, I feel very, very blessed to be connected to you guys. I'll just say this super fast because I am going to take Cheeky for a walk. So when I was at the retreat that I did in May, we had minor emergencies that happened. Like there was one time when the sprinkler system started to spray on us while we were doing our flying rainbow lasagna dance outside. And, you know, I had 10 dancers there. And the caliber of all of these types of people, this is the type of people who I'm with and who are with me. They said, oh no, like we're getting sprayed by the sprinkler system. We better do something about this right away. Like I didn't tell everybody what to do. Somebody jumped up and started to go to the control panel to see about turning off the sprinklers. Another person got the tarp and put the tarp on top of the sprinkler heads. Everybody worked to move the mats out of the way. Like everybody sprang into action, self-organized, and responded to the crisis that we were in. That is the type of person that I celebrate and that I am so pleased to be connected to. Truly the best of the best. You're the best of the best in this world. And Elmer says, thank you so much for the encouragement, willing to do something beautiful. And Pedro says, love the light kick lasagna. And Kate says, thanks a lot, Aurora, so motivating. Good. I'm a good motivational speaker. Let's get out there and do it, everyone. And also let's do it joyfully. Put on some good music. Do it joyfully too. All right, beautiful. That's something beautiful to end upon. All right. Thank you so much, everyone. My profound gratitude, my profound thanks, profound love. Thank you. Thank you for supporting me and sending positive energy towards me. All right. Got it.